How y'all doing? We're gonna react to the news today that, well, this happened, and I think a lot of people are justifiably confused by this, whatever this is. There's going to be a lot of people saying that this is the biggest snub in NBA history. Now, I was on the record as early as yesterday saying that I believe that Pascal Siakam would make the All-Star team. So I look wrong too, right? I don't look right, and I don't feel great about it. Um, but I don't think it's the biggest snub, and I don't think it's the biggest snub in NBA history. I think this is a case of a guy who, I don't know. I don't want to say top top 20, top 20, 25 type player right now. There's a lot of factors that go into it. Number one, where are you right now? What have you done for me lately? Hold on, I'm just gonna fix my light. Give me 1 sec here. It's bothering me here. All right, that's too bright. That's better. Um, so what I wanted to do today is I want to look at the other players that were being discussed in the All-Star conversation, and I want to talk about it. I want to talk about who those players are. I want to talk about the other. K Money saying Pascal isn't that guy. Yeah, that's not debatable. But did he deserve to be an All-Star? Because I think there's a very good case to be made that yes, he did deserve to be an All-Star, regardless of where his play was in January. I think he's played a lot of games relative to some of these other guys. Let's just first look at the players that I believe were snubbed, right? The four players that everyone seems to be talking about, and I genuinely agree, are Pascal Siakam, Jimmy Butler, James Harden, and Jalen Brunson, right? People saying, hey, like, how the hell did Julius Randle make it? How did Bam Adebayo make it over Pascal Siakam? Well, you weren't not going to select a single Knick, right? That's just not going to happen. The Knicks have been in the playoff picture. They're a big market team, right? And to those of us in Toronto saying, well, Pascal Siakam's a bigger deal than Julius Randle, he is not in NBA circles, just being really honest. Neither one of these guys are like marquee stars that those in attendance at the All-Star game are going to be there to see. It's kind of like Fred VanVleet or Kyle Lowry, right? People aren't there to see those guys at an All-Star game. It's kind of like, congratulations, you made it. Like Theo Ratliff, Jamal McGlure. There's a lot of guys in the past that don't really, they're not going to really make the highlight plays. They're not really the featured guys that everyone's like dying to see, like John Morant, Allen Iverson, marquee guys. That's what the All-Star game is about. It's a mid-season exhibition of the NBA's top talent. And the Siakam snub, it's very complicated. It's very complicated. Because on the one hand, first of all, someone saying Pascal Siakam's David Lee. I mean, yeah, I think he's a lot better than that. De'Aaron Fox and Jose saying, I don't know if you're not the Jose Calderon, of course not. Come on. But interesting name there. Do you think Fox and Edwards deserved it over Siakam, and do you think they're better? No, I don't. I don't think they're better. And I don't necessarily think they deserved it, but you could make a case that De'Aaron Fox deserves it more because he's on a better team and he's contributed more to winning this year. Yeah, you can make a very good case for that. Fox is the biggest snub. Yeah, I mean, you could make a very good case the Sacramento Kings deserve 2 All-Stars, given how their season's going. I didn't really think they were going to get 2 All-Stars. Positional stuff, I think guard and wing talent far more impressive than than center talent or big talent. But let's discuss this, right? So first of all, MT says, I'm gonna have to stop you at Bam. He absolutely deserves it over Siakam. Okay. Okay, let's hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comments if you think Pascal Siakam deserved to be an All-Star this year. Just let me know. Yes, no. And if you say yes, then include yes over. So if you say no, then you agree with the coaches. If you say yes, then give me a guy that he would have replaced in the front court between Julius Randle. Okay, so we got yes. Sorry, Sir C Cats. I need yes over. So whole lot of nothing. Yes over DeMar. That's fair, but DeMar's a guard. Are you gonna have? I mean, are you expecting the East All Stars to be the Toronto Raptors, all forwards, no guards? James Welsh, yes over Randall. Okay, so James, I guess let's have that conversation. Do you think okay if yes over Randall, despite the record, despite very similar stats? I mean, Randall's what 24, 10, and 4, right? And he's on a winning team that's above 500 in a major market. I think you could make I think you could sell yourself that they're having a relatively even season with Randall and the better team. But if you bump Randall, are you then somehow finding a way to get Jalen Brunson in? Because I don't see how you could have not a single New York Knick. MT, DeMar is not a guard. I mean, yeah, he's a forward. You could make that case, but he's not a big. He's a wing. Wing guard is kind of lumped together, and then forward, center. I don't know. Positions are weird, right? Um, he's more of a guard than Siakam. Would you agree with that? You could play DeMar in the backcourt. Um, they wanted NYC hype so simple. Is it so simple? I mean, the New York Knicks are a winning team. I mean, imagine the inverse. Imagine if Siakam was putting up 24, 10, and 4, but the Raptors were winning. Would you be okay with Julius Randle being 7 games under 500 and making it in over him? If he had Siakam stats, I don't think anyone would be. Brunson is a difference maker in NY. He deserves the All-Star. Yep. Rob, what does that mean for Pascal as our number one option moving forward? A healthy year where you come in with MVP energy to this is ugly. MVP energy or MVP propaganda? I don't think he ever came in with MVP energy. Look, some people are saying that I'm happy about this. I'm not happy about this. I don't care. I'm not bothered by it. I'll tell you that much. I don't care. Like, I just don't care. Does that make me a bad person? I don't care. You know, it's an all-star game. What does it mean? In the grander context of the season the Raptors are having, I mean, I think it's fair game that no one made an all-star team. Should they be celebrated? You know, should they be celebrated for working hard in the off season? Sure. Should they be celebrated for chasing stats all season, playing some of the most offensively disgusting brand of selfish isolation basketball, hero ball that I have ever seen this franchise play? And should the catalyst, one of the biggest catalysts of that, be rewarded with an all-star bid because his numbers look nice? Let's talk about it. Look, Josh Lewinberg had a tweet. He said something along the lines of, never seen... So first, let me introduce the show. I'm usually very bad at introducing shows, and people have no idea what's coming in the second half. The first half of the show will be devoted to understanding what I think about Pascal Siakam's season so far, beyond this is a stupid play, that's a bad play, this is a selfish brand of basketball. I want to talk numbers and his place in the league, because my biggest gripe with this entire narrative, going all the way back to preseason, has always been, when I did my preseason rankings, if you recall, we're talking training camp, I did a top 20 players on the Raptors, and with Siakam, I devoted my entire I put him number 1, and I devoted the entire segment to saying, yes, but. Number 1, but by default. By default of there not being an actual star on this team, this is your top guy, but it's not going to gravitate in that top 5, top 10 area ever. And I was pretty clear about that. And people roasted me for it. And then I spent 45 minutes looking direct to camera and just giving a soliloquy or a monologue about why I don't think you can win playing with this guy the way he's playing. And they roasted me for that too. I think that video had 700 views and 700 comments. It had like 7,000 views. and most of them were overwhelmingly negative. And then yesterday I made a mistake. I went on Twitter and I put that picture of Siakam with the bubbles around him and woke up to some I posted that at 5 a.m. I woke up at I want to say 9 a.m. And by 9 a.m. it had 11,000 impressions and there's a whole bunch of retweets and people hating on me. And I just laughed it off. I don't care. I think to me, my issue has always been the narrative. I think he's a hell of a player, but I think the role and narrative has bothered me. So let's talk about it. And Coach Mo is on the line. If you'd like to call in, you want to have a quick discussion, we can have that. This show is not going to go too long. The second part of this show, I have ADHD or something. The second part of this show will be 10 trade targets that I think the Raptors should be looking at. Some of them we've discussed on this show before, some of them we haven't. So let's get into the numbers. So to those of you who say that he should have been over DeMar, this is sort of where those guys are, right? Brunson, Holiday, DeMar DeRozan. To those people saying he should get in over Drew Holiday, I disagree. To those people saying he's a bigger snub than Jalen Brunson, I say they both make a case, but I see your point. I think he's had a better season than Jalen Brunson. Brunson's on a winning team. And for the DeMar DeRozan crowd, yeah, I firmly get that argument. 100%. I get that argument. He's been better on defense than DeMar. The Raptors are about as good as the Bulls. I mean, you could argue that what is the rationale there? DeMar's probably a bigger name. Maybe that's the rationale. DeMar's a bigger name. He's a better dunker. He's going to play a way more exciting brand of basketball in a midseason exhibit. So if you're a coach thinking of it that way, but if you're just thinking rewarding pure merit, I think he's been better than DeMar DeRozan. Yes. Compared to the forwards, to the people who say he should get in over Bam. Yeah, now that I disagree with. I think he and Bam, it's a coin toss. And when it's a coin toss, I think the guy, I don't want to say it's a coin toss as in the talent that they have. I think Siakam playing in the right role is definitely a little bit better than Bam Adebayo. Not by a lot, but by a little bit at least. But with his defensive effort sort of tanking, with his offensive inefficiency recently, especially when you start comparing him to other top-notch guys. Look at how efficient Jimmy Butler is and look at what a two-way impact he's making, right? We're talking about a guy who is, approaching his mid-30s and he's still a better defender than Pascal Siakam, and he's better on offense. The only case to be made for why Butler didn't make it is he's played 6 fewer games than Pascal. But he's on a way better team. So if Pascal Siakam is the biggest snub, I disagree. I think Jimmy Butler is the biggest snub. I think those 6 extra games are it's debatable whether, I don't care about it. 6 games, it's marginal, right? You can argue that even Pascal Siakam missing 10 games, that's a lot, but I just think Butler's been that much better. I think the gap between the season Jimmy Butler's having and the season Pascal Siakam's having, it's an A minus season versus a B minus season, it's relative to superstar standards. It's Butler's having an amazing season. The Heat are better. I don't see why he would be the guy getting snubbed there. To compare him to James Harden, just give yourself if you think James Harden's cooked or that he's a bad player or whatever, give your head a little bit of a shake there, Yeah, Siakam's marginally better on defense. Yeah, I know the reputation of James Harden is the worst defender in the league. He's not at all, right? He's not great, but a lot of the schemes that Philadelphia is running are helping him be passable on defense this year. But it's not like Siakam's some world beater on defense. He's not. He's an above average defender, and James Harden's a slightly below average defender or average defender at this point. But the offense, I think, and the team record, I give the edge to James Harden. It just so happens that Harden's played 34 games. So now he's missed 9 more games than Siakam. And in which case I think Siakam is the bigger snub than him. So that's where I stand on the was Pascal Siakam snubbed debate. We're gonna get to a call here. If you would like to call in, the link is in the description. We can talk it out. Coach Mo, what up?
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, I'm good. Yes, I can hear you.
So, do you remember the last time I called after the last game we played against the Jazz?
Mm-hmm.
I said
Last night.
last night I said something along the lines of it's not a guarantee Pascal makes it. I said that.
Did you really say that?
I said if I said
Did I call you crazy?
I said if they were tallying this next week, what like he hasn't separated himself. I don't think
Yeah.
he had like to me, there were only two guarantees. To me,
Mm-hmm.
Joel Embiid and Jalen Brown. Everything else is up for debate. Everything else. There is no other guarantee besides those two.
Mm.
Do you agree with that?
I think. Yeah, I see your point. So
Jalen
here's.
Brown would have been a snub. Jalen Brown would have been a snub.
I don't
That
think
was
that.
his rightful place.
I don't even think that could happen. And you know what?
That's what I'm saying. That's a snub. You took his spot. That's his. That belongs to him.
Right. Okay. So I mean, where are you on the Siakam Bam debate? Because I mean, look. Interestingly enough, Jaren Jackson Jr., Bam Adebayo, Laurie Markkinen, they all make it. Granted, in the West, East, etc. I personally, I would like to do away with this East-West thing. We've already done away with the East-West.
Center.
The well, I mean, like we're not doing East-West because it's team Giannis, team LeBron, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, it's a very good chance that there are a whole bunch of Western Conference players who are going to play with Team Giannis, and there's a bunch of So, what is the point of even doing it? Just do it
Okay.
league wide. It's
Okay.
sort of stupid to me because if the debate was Laurie Markkinen versus Pascal Siakam, for I think maybe coaches might have felt Siakam deserved a nod. Maybe. I'm not saying there definitely, but I'm just saying maybe. Because I mean, look at some of these names, right? I mean, we're talking Jaren Jackson Jr. I think he deserves it. Are there any names on this list that really stick out as I can't believe they're an all star?
Well, I was surprised Jaren Jackson Jr. made it. I think he
Really?
has all-star impact, but um, I was surprised to see his name. The
I mean, the
rest,
Grizzlies
not
are
so
really
much.
good.
Not so much.
I mean, the Grizzlies.
He was the most surprising.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, DeMar kind of, but
Yeah, Demar was surprising to me too.
he's more efficient than Pascal. He's more efficient. Like it's
Yeah,
weird.
but
He
he's
actually
worse on
shoots better
defense.
from three. He actually shoots better than three.
That's crazy to say. But he is, of course, worse on defense,
I mean,
right?
okay, see, this is where we're gonna get into some slippery territory. Have you watched Pascal this past month play defense?
You know that I have. I made an entire
Okay,
video about it.
I mean, what are
But
we talking about? I mean,
he's not worse than
Pascal's
DeMar
defense
DeRozan,
is
right?
it's not something to even brag about. I guess I don't really watch much of the Bulls, so unless DeMar DeRozan is Jose Calderon in his prime, the red carpet treatment, unless he's that, he's not worse. Unless he's literally guiding people to the basket,
Dude, he's a 27th percentile defender, and
well,
Jalen
there you go,
Brunson
there you
is
go. Then
15th.
he's better than
Siakam's
Pascal.
70th. Okay, like as I said, Siakam is like like he's not all league defender. We need to stop talking about him like he's some two-way talent. He's not. Like he is definitely an offensive player right now, and whether that's due to effort or that's due to load or that's due to minutes, I don't really care. The point is, he has not been an overwhelming positive on defense, but he's not like a liability on defense. He
Yeah,
makes it like we are so used to, as Raptor fans, we're so used to watching everyone dialed in and engaged on defense that when one guy sort of checks out of that end
yeah,
for
no,
like
the
four or
fall
five
off has
days,
been big. The fall off has been
yeah, like it really does it does sort of fall apart
But
in a sense.
another thing though that gives
Hmm.
Demar the edge, clutch time play.
I mean, how far are we taking this,
No, I'm
right?
saying, is that not All Star? Who do you want the ball in the hands in the last 3 minutes? Pascal or Demar?
Okay, Demar, but still, like, hmm.
I'm saying this is all debatable. This is all debatable. He hasn't separated himself. If this were based on November, Pascal's 100% shoo-in. He had the month from hell. He was legit a tank commander in January. He was a tank commander. Do you know someone wrote somewhere we were 500 without Pascal and we're 7 games below 500 with him?
That was me. I wrote that.
Yeah, I read that on like a real GM. Maybe it was you. I read that on real GM too. But it's like this guy doesn't impact winning. When someone was talking, does impact winning matter? Because I agree with you. His stats look shiny, but they
Well,
translate.
he impacts two things. Number one, he impacts 3-point shooting, or at least he has for most of the season. Earlier in the season, he impacted 3-point shooting dramatically, and he also impacts scoring overall. Like the Raptors score more with him than without him. Other than that, though, he negatively impacts the defense, rebounding, and I think assists are a little bit higher when he plays versus without. But I agree with you that like when I compare him to like legit like superstars, and I don't think anyone ever should compare him to like a Luca or
Hell
Ja
no.
Morant or Zion or whatever. But when you see the team, when you see like some people are upset that Tyrese Halliburton made it. I think I have a name for those people. I call it crazy. Like
Yes.
look at what Indiana is doing without Tyrese. Just look at
Yeah,
it.
they were like
Like
1-9 or something.
yeah, they're terrible. And I mean, like now that he's back, like you're gonna see his impact on winning. It's just crazy to me that yeah, like I think like the elephant in the room here is inflation, right? I've talked about it numerous times that we need to just stop like pretending that this is not happening with his stats because it really is. There's a couple of inflationary factors. Number one is his role and how he's used in this offense. Everything is just predicated and designed to get him in rhythm and pull
Yep.
everyone out of rhythm. The second part is the minutes that he plays. The third is the pace of the league. I mean, look, to anyone out there who has ever like who has recently gone to the store and been like $7.50 for eggs. I can't believe I'm paying $7.50 for eggs, right?
Mhm.
I think that's the same thing as I can't believe a guy who's averaging 25, 8, and 6 didn't make the All Star team. I think it's the same thing because it's like, yeah, we've never seen it before, but we've never quite been in this era before of scoring. So when you think about 25 points per game, you think of it always in a relation to how many points a team is scoring. For instance, if we were to do away with the shot, let's say, like, do you ever play 2K, Mo?
Yeah, I used to play it all the time.
Okay, amazing. So do you ever play My GM or like that like team builder mode?
Rarely, but I have.
Okay, so I used to play out seasons, and I'm not kidding. Like I would play out to like 2060, 2065. I was drafting Jordan's son,
Yeah,
Jordan's grandkids.
yeah, yeah.
Like it was crazy. I drafted Domantas Sabonis. Like I mean, because yeah, like it's nuts. One of the things that would happen every single offseason is the league would vote on rule changes, right? And you would vote yes or no. And sometimes you would vote yes, but the league would vote no. And sometimes the other GMs would vote no. So one time they voted to reduce the shot clock from 24 to 20. And I got to tell you, the very next year when that happened, my team, my leading scorer went from averaging 26 points per game to 34 points per game. Just that one shift alone changed everything. Scoring around the league just bumped
Because it's
crazy.
going faster.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's going faster. You reduce the shot clock, everything changes. So if you were to add a 4-point line, you would see guys averaging 50 points per game because there's a lot of guys out there who can actually shoot whatever perceptively would be the fourth 4-point shot. So anyway, so that's kind of my point is that in 25 is not that relevant. 8 and 6 are an extension of the 25.
Yeah.
Rebounding, to anyone out there who thinks rebounding is some standalone thing, it doesn't. It's a function of how many rebounds are available.
Do you know how many times I see guys like Precious Achua, guys like Scotty Barnes boxing out the center, and
Yeah.
then Pascal just comes and grabs it. He
Yeah,
doesn't even
yeah,
jump.
yeah, yeah,
He just grabs
absolutely.
it.
No, for
It's like,
for
oh,
sure.
8 rebounds. Congratulations, you. It's like
Yeah.
seriously, like
You
I
don't
don't
have a
care that
camera,
you
but I heard
really
you
don't
I
care.
heard you clap there.
Yeah,
Um yeah. Okay. So anyway, Mo, thank you so much. Any final thoughts here?
yeah. Tell me if I'm blasphemous and I need to be banned from your channel with this trade proposal. Okay,
Oh God. Okay.
Pascal Siakam
Mm-hmm.
for Kristaps Porzingis and 3 first-round picks. I think the Wizards are crazy enough to do it.
would do it.
Huh?
I would do it.
I would do that I jump on that so fast. You think
Yeah, I
they'll
would do it.
do it?
Yeah, I would. Porzingis gives the Raptors what they need as a center. Um, he can space the floor really well. He can shoot reasonably well. He'll miss probably a lot of games to injury, which helps you tank. And yeah, in terms of talent, that's a bit of an upgrade there. Talent, not impact. Like impact, yeah,
Yeah,
they're
raw
adding.
talent. Yeah, raw talent. Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of like raw talent, upside potential, whatever you want to call it. I mean, just look at Lauri Markkanen, right? Lauri Markkanen is a guy that people have been saying like he has all this potential, whatever. I'm not just comparing them because they're both, tall white guys who shoot. Like I'm just saying, like I mean, you bank on potential and you sort of settle on upside. Like I think Porzingis is really good around the rim. He kind of cleans up a lot of the areas on the floor that the
Rim
Raptors leak
protection.
oil at. If you were to add 3 first-round picks, if I could be greedy and get Denny Avdia, that would be just great.
I wouldn't even push it. I take the 3 first round picks and just shake
I
hands
would
and run.
maybe I'm that big a Denny Avdia fan, but I would take 2 first-round picks in Denny.
Oh, jeez, you really are a big fan. All right, and
I just love his defensive impact, man.
here's my mythical. Tell me if this is even in the realm of possibility. Tell me if they hang up on the spot. Okay,
Mhm.
Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet for Anthony Davis and Pat Beverly.
Yeah, I think they would hang up on
They
that
hang
one.
up, huh?
I feel like both sides would say no to that somehow.
You think
But
so?
I mean, Anthony Davis, I mean, there's some serious upside you're banking on there, but the guy's like, his injury stuff it's getting very scary.
Well,
Because
Anthony Davis will single-handedly stop the Cavs.
he's a weird lose-lose situation. I don't think he's a leader. That's my issue with Anthony Davis. He would be your leading shot taker. He'd be your leader by default because of his status, and I think I don't think he's a good leader. I worry about a
The
team.
guy leaving, the two guys leaving aren't.
I don't think Davis is much better
I get it. He's just better than
as a
both.
leader. Oh, talent wise, dude, if this is a video game, I make that trade like a
That
million. But
dude,
this is real life.
yeah, but that dude, he just walks out of bed 27, 10, 2 blocks, a steal, shoots 55% from the field, just
Hmm.
and
I
plays
guess I guess
all NBA defense just in his sleep. That's how great he is
the problem is
when he's healthy.
he is in his sleep. That's the problem. So I
I mean,
guess
him sleepwalking is better than Pascal doing the best he possibly can do. That's the difference in talent.
that's the talent gap.
That's
But
the talent
also
gap.
like I have to ask myself the question of like, do I want someone who sleepwalks through entire months of the
As long as he's
season?
not in the way of Scotty.
Well, see, that's the thing. I would need to talk to agent. I would need to talk to Anthony Davis. I would need to figure it out. I would need to see if he could still see himself as Scotty's running mate. I know that he's a way better player than Scotty, but
Yeah, right
future
now.
wise, I'm not building Scotty around Anthony Davis. I'd be building Anthony Davis around Scotty Barnes. I know that sounds crazy to some people. I don't care. Okay, like I see the leadership potential of Scotty, and I don't want Davis messing that up. So anyone I bring in has to understand whose team this is going forward.
And if he gets that,
And
and if he's down, you do the trade.
yeah, I would need like a medical exam. Like I would need to, but yes, he's significantly
Did you
better
see
than.
the run he was on? The, like 10 games when he was healthy, and he
Yeah,
was dropping 40s and 20s.
yeah, man. It's just I worry about guys with those kind of durability concerns just because
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like you don't know what you're gonna get with them in the playoffs. But anyway, Mo,
Also,
thanks a lot for calling, man.
last time you talked about kind of not in your words, but kind of playing players down before their next contract.
Yeah,
Okay, this is good if the Raptors do keep him. He didn't make the All Star game.
he's still getting a
Probably
max.
made
He's
All
still getting a
NBA.
max contract. It makes
Well,
no
it's not going to be
difference.
super max.
I
I just
mean,
don't think he'll be on the team to even get it on our team anyway.
okay, if the Raptors, by some miracle, which they're not going to, as my Tank World Order video would suggest, but if they were to turn it around and he starts averaging like he starts going back to where he was, I mean, he might make All NBA, dude.
He
You
barely
don't
made it
know.
last year. Barely.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
And
But
last year was better.
and last year we were better. So
Yes.
I understand that the All NBA ship has like 99% sailed, and good for the Raptors. They don't have to pay 35%. But I mean, I'm at a point right now where I don't want to pay 25%.
Amen.
I don't even want to pay
Amen.
20%. So yeah, it's just, yeah, it's hard to, you know, we found this out with a lot of regimes in the Middle East. It's really hard to replace dictators. It's really hard to replace like, the top level order. People don't settle for being replaced under some where there's not really a democracy. I guess so. What I'm saying is it would be very difficult for an emerging talent like Scotty to usurp or pass over the guys ahead of him, because it's just not. It's not who he is. Like he has a bit of a takeover personality, but I just feel like this team, it needs to happen from inside. You
It's
can't
kind of
just
like the way it's kind of like the way Wade went to LeBron and said, "Dude, you're the best player. You gotta take it," and
not
encourage him
number
to
one,
execute.
yes, that, but also what Karl Anthony Towns did for Anthony Edwards,
Yeah.
right? Sort of just embracing him as the closer, the guy. It's weird to say that in this discussion I'm saying that Karl Anthony Towns seems to care more about winning, but maybe it's just Anthony Edwards is just that type of guy. And if you've
Don't
seen
you
him
think?
like kind of off court, you realize he takes over rooms. So I understand, like, um, I don't
How,
know. There's a freaking old quote. They say like, it was from Moneyball. You
oh
remember the
yeah,
film
yeah, great
Moneyball?
movie.
And yeah, it's a fantastic movie. And this guy's like trying to describe this super alpha guy, and he's just like, that's the kind of guy where, when he enters a room, his dick's been in there for a couple of minutes. Like, I
Yeah.
guess I guess the point there being like he kind of takes over rooms, and that's sort of where I feel about guys like Anthony Edwards. So, you know,
Yeah, he has the
anyway,
personality.
yeah,
Do
he
you
has
think?
he
Do
has
you
a
think
personality to take over. And
Do you think Pascal's value took a hit this past couple weeks?
oh, 100%, yes, 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 yes. And then that sucks because he's apparently on the market, and he or OG, according to Shams,
Oh, here's my last
or
question. Here's my last question. Who has more value right now, OG or Pascal?
OG,
Who will give you a bigger return?
OG.
All right, Raptors fans, you heard that. Wake up.
See ya.
All right.
Okay, next up we got Chris. Chris, what up?
Hey Robert, how you doing?
I'm good. To anyone else who was waiting in the queue who's now vanished, please feel free to call back in about 5 minutes. We'll have you on. Chris, what are your thoughts on the greatest snub the biggest snub in history?
Well, I'll definitely disagree with that. I don't think it's the biggest snub in NBA history. It definitely is. I don't know if it definitely is a snub. Um, Funny enough, like I was thinking about this yesterday, and I was like, you know what? They might actually leave him off the team because, like, with just how bad the team is playing, and then like his numbers the last couple of weeks or so. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, you know what? I actually think he's known about this for a couple of days now. Because like I think there was like a recent interview about him saying how he's not happy, he's not happy, he's not something about him not wanting to be patient about what's going on in Toronto, or something like that came out, like a story about that, like over the last couple of days. So I wonder if like he heard about this like a couple of days ago, and like he's kind of been in his feelings about it. But like that's besides the point of what I necessarily want to talk about. To me, it's about how it reflects on Toronto in general, though. I
On
feel
Toronto, are you talking the city Toronto, or are you talking about the franchise Toronto?
franchise Toronto.
Okay.
Like I feel like because you know how you always bring up the topic necessarily how like Toronto fans have that necessarily what's that necessarily don't imposter syndrome necessarily, kind of like they don't believe they belong necessarily, and
Well, I
like
don't know if it's an imposter syndrome, but I totally get what you're saying, and like, I guess maybe you're saying it's an insecure,
dirty basically.
insecure. What is it? An inferiority complex.
There you go.
There we go.
That's what I want. Exactly. That's perfectly exactly what I want to say. So how do you feel like this is going to reflect on the franchise necessarily? Because I feel like the way
Well,
it's
that really depends on the media, doesn't it? It really does, because unfortunately, the media gives everyone their fucking talking points, and I'm really kind of sick of it, right? Because look, Samson Folk released this entire thing about how many minutes Siakam has played over the last 100 games, right? And he used it as a minutes per game over the last 100 games he's played. This is how many minutes he's played. And that has become a talking point because of how many followers he has and how widely respected he is. I think this is a very disingenuous way of approaching this entire topic, right? So right now, if the media decides to say, well, this is all about some American bias or coaches are so biased, I'm sorry, Scotty Barnes won Rookie of the Year last year, and he plays for Toronto Raptors. Vince Carter became the most popular player in the world. He plays for the Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry made 5 All-Star teams. He played for the 6 more All-Star teams. He played for the Raptors. DeMar DeRozan made All-Star teams. He played for the Raptors. The only difference is, for the most part, those guys play for winning teams. So when you lose, when you play like shit, yeah, this is gonna happen. It's gonna happen to everybody. You know, I don't remember Klay Thompson making it. Well, it wasn't Klay. Pardon?
I feel like, sorry to interrupt. I feel like in different years, like players that put up pretty good stats have made the All-Star team. Like, how?
Can you think of an example?
Bradley Beal.
Was he on the 12th place team or 13th place team in the East? Well,
I
12th, right? We're 12th.
I can't remember how bad they were, but I'm pretty sure they weren't a playoff team, one of those All-Star teams he made. At least, because I know he's only made like 2. So I'll use him as an example. So,
okay.
And like, I can't really, like, I can think of like maybe Danny Granger way back in the day, maybe.
Was Danny Granger ever on a bad team? I don't think Danny Granger made it on a bad team, dude. I'm going off my memory on that one. I don't think that happened. He's not a big enough name to do that. Look, it's reserved. Look, at the end of the day, it is a midseason exhibit, right? It is a huge television event, marketing event, advertising event for the league. This is a chance for the league to exhibit their best and brightest. Okay, whether Pascal Siakam belongs in that group, from a basketball standpoint, sure, maybe. He doesn't play basketball that excites me. I'll tell you that. I don't like watching Pascal Siakam play. I have to watch him play because I cover this team, right? I watch him play, then I watch him play in slow motion. It's horrible. It's a horrible product. It is some of the ugliest basketball I've ever witnessed as a Toronto Raptor fan. Mm-hmm. Him, Mike James, some of the worst, okay? I preferred watching DeMar DeRozan fade away mid-range shots because there was at least some beauty to that. There's nothing fun about watching a guy dive into defenders. Like, it's so irritating. And his defensive impact, the whole merit of,
I understand that.
He screwed himself over. At the end of the day, he screwed himself over by having the month that he's had, by fouling out of games, by the piss poor, body language, by, allowing his team to be this bad. With look, the narrative would be totally different. I think the narrative would be different if the Raptors went like 2-8 without him and then they started winning when he came back. They went 3-9 when he came back. And this is, by the way, the exact same thing that happened last year when he came back. This isn't the first time that he's had a meltdown for an entire month and a half. This entire stretch with Siakam, I just want to show you how bad he's been. Let me just pull it up for you. Just give me your thoughts on what you think about this. Here are the last 17 games. And by the way, I was being generous. I could have extended this back to December, and the trend would continue. His last 17 games for Pascal Siakam, he's been below 43% 10 times. He's shot 27.8% from 3, which is 8% below league average, 7.5% below league average. He's averaging 3 turnovers per game. He's averaging 3.56 spot fouls per game. He has failed to get a single steal in 14 games. He was a 7'3" wingspan, and he plays the most minutes in the league. It's hard to be this bad, and has not had a single block or a steal over the last 4 games, of which he has nearly fouled out of almost all of them. How can you possibly not there's certain ratios that go hand in hand in the NBA. Aggression on defense will lead to foul trouble, but aggression on defense, the flip side of it is you tend to get blocks and steals. And how the hell do you foul out of a game where you didn't manage to get a single block or a single steal? He's just reaching. It's stupid fouls.
I don't really disagree with the snub or anything like that. To me, the whole.
I definitely think he was snubbed. Here's me just putting that out there. I think he probably deserved it over DeRozan, but I also think that Jimmy Butler and James Harden have had better seasons than him, and so if I make the case for them, If I make the case for him over DeRozan, then I have to make the case for Butler over him. So in a weird way, I don't think it's that big a deal. You know, a scout that I once talked to said, Rob, there are usually 40 All-Stars in the NBA every year. 24 make it. That's pretty much a good way to look at this.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
So every single year when you look at the snubs list, you're always going to find at least one or two guys that could be in the conversation for like top 20 player. And they usually end up on really bad teams, or they end up having very injury riddled seasons. I don't know what the league would have done if Butler, and I think that's the one thing. If you make the argument, I think the only logical argument here is that he deserved it over DeRozan or Bam. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think with the DeRozan thing, I think they saw that they had so many forwards and so many bigs already picked, right? The Randle thing also, potentially you could make that argument, but I think that New York had to get one.
The last couple months.
Pardon?
New York's been Randall's been like really good like the last month or so. He's been playing like crazy. Like,
and that's the other side of it, right? So there's a couple of things that would have flipped this for him. Number one is if he inverted his season. If he started out the way he's playing right now and he was playing now like he was to start the season, I think it's more like, what have you done for me lately? I think he probably makes it, right? Because then they could be like, oh, they were playing. But it's like...
And then it's the combination of the losing as well, too. It's just like, the only reason media is because we suck so much and everybody wants our players. So, like, that's like everybody ever thinks about when they bring up the Raptors. It's not necessarily about our play, right? So...
What do you think the league really values Siakam the way, like, because I've been on my soapbox. I don't know how long you follow this channel. How long have you been subscribed to this channel?
I would say probably since the season started, I'd say.
Okay. So I've been on my, Siakam's not a top 10, top 15 player for like a while now.
For sure.
And I think like I'm kind of curious to see how, because I'm worried about this, right? I'm really worried about this because see, what happens is when you present, not you specifically, but when the media like Lewenberg, Grange, Smith, Jack Armstrong, Matt Devlin, whatever, when you start presenting a guy as an MVP or an All-NBA Siakam, you nickname him All-NBA Siakam, you get the fans riled up.
That's
you
true.
Get them excited about what they're watching on the court because you think that that's the way to sell it because the product is obviously ugly. You're losing. You got to sell them something. All-Star Siakam, MVP Siakam, MVP chance for fucking Siakam, which like honestly was just baffling to me.
Ridiculous.
That is going to be a really, really tough hill to die on for these guys. So I am very curious to know how they're going to pivot because one thing I have noticed with people who get caught lying is they tend to double down. For them to double down right now would require leaps of faith from their followers, and probably they're going to evoke some sense of it's a conspiracy. They're all going to say it's a conspiracy. But when you talk to actual scouts around the league, I got to tell you, I've talked to a few scouts, and I've asked them for their thoughts on OG, I've asked them for their thoughts on Siakam, I've asked whatever. I got to tell you, man, like so many scouts have told me that they don't rate Siakam that much. They don't see him in that conversation, top 15, whatever. He can talk about it. I feel like Toronto fans, they live in a fucking bubble.
I really understand that. Like I have my own personal friends, like don't rate him like that. Like I've been like.
Are your friends from Toronto?
Toronto, Ottawa, so necessarily Ontario, all over Ontario. So yeah.
Yeah, man. Like I mean, to talk to go to a general board, like go to Twitter on some other thing, and like for instance. In the off season, we were dominated by Kevin Durant trade rumors, right? Mm-hmm. And you were seeing like what other teams were putting together for Durant, right? Like Raptor fans were like, okay, Siakam plus 4 first-round picks. Like that's how people felt about Kevin Durant. But now Pascal Siakam's on the block. Go look at what other teams are talking about giving up for Pascal Siakam and what they think is too much. Go to a Miami board and be like, would you guys give us Bam for Siakam? They can be like, no. Go to a Boston board and be like, I swear to God, the other day I saw someone say, someone went on it was a Boston Celtics board and they said Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, for Pascal Siakam, and they said no. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, Memphis has
But
3 players that
Toronto
they would
fans
hold
like
untouchable in
rate
Siakam.
Siakam like that. Like I don't even think Toronto fans rate Siakam like on the level to even compare him to like value wise to like what KD would get in return and stuff like that. Like
Well, KD's 34 years old, man. Siakam's a guy in his prime. So if in his prime, at his peak, he is not worth what, like, I mean, we're talking seriously about fans being like on the fence about Christian Wood being included in Siakam trade packages. Like Dallas fans, like, could we get him without trading Christian Wood?
yeah,
I'm
that's
like, what, bro? Like, what are we talking about here? I mean, look, I think he's underrated around the NBA, but I think he's massively overrated in Toronto. And I think maybe part of why he's so underrated by other fan bases is because he's so overrated here. It's kind of like how we feel about New York fans and their love affair with Julius Randle. We keep saying he's not that great, but they keep telling us that he's so great. You know, I mean, New York fans are I think they've seen the light with Julius Randle, but I think like 2 years ago when they were making the playoffs and he was playing so well, they were all like, "Oh my God, he's so much better than Siakam," and it's like kind of came down to earth last year. I think there's levels to this. I don't think he should ever be mentioned in that, top 15 class, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. It's like if you are one of those people who's been pushing this, he's so great. He's the best, he's a top 10 player. He's all NBA, top 5 MVP candidate. Because that was the narrative. When he was out, they said they're missing an MVP candidate. That's what they said. They said it over and over and over. I know because I heard it.
mm-hmm.
And when he came back, you lose more with him than you did without him. You go 5-5 without him, and then you start losing aggressively when he came back. I think he went 3-9. At some point, we went 3-9 over the very immediate stretch of when he came back, and he's putting up big numbers during that period of time. This is before January, so he's putting up big numbers, and you're losing. So I think all that MVP talk just went away, and then it descended into, well, at least he's going to make All NBA for sure. And then it eventually was like, he's going to make the All. He has to make the All-Star. So now where's it going to go from here? It's like, top 40 Siakam. We're going to talk top 50 Siakam. We're going to talk, like, what are we talking about here? I just feel like the entire argument of, who should you build around, Scotty or Siakam? Who should fit into whose timeline? This conversation has driven me insane because it is built on a lie that he is as good as he is, because he's not.
Okay. So do you really think that, like, he wouldn't be able to, I guess, pass on the torch to Scotty? You really think that's going to be an issue? You really think he has that type of ego? Because I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, he obviously, to even consider yourself in the conversation for top 5 player in the NBA, to say that that's your goal, to be aiming at a supermax, you have to have a pretty massive ego. And I'm not saying ego in a negative sense. I think sometimes an ego, like, I mean, dude, when I started this channel, I made a channel trailer in which I said, within 2 years, I want this to be the #1 basketball content for Raptors YouTube. Like, that's ego too. That's massive ego. I get it. Ego can be healthy if you work at it. And
he obviously works at it.
He works at it, but there's an upper limit to how much you can soup up a Toyota Corolla, man.
Good point.
Yeah. Anyway, Chris, I really appreciate you, as always.
Rob, just one more thing before I go.
Sure.
So, obviously, who... your gut feeling right now, who's getting traded next Thursday out of VanVleet, Siakam, and OG?
VanVleet, Siakam, and OG. One or two of them.
I think it's going to be one of them, but I think it's definitely one of those 3. Somebody from the championship core is not going to be here next Thursday.
Who's not going to be here?
Somebody from the championship core is not going to be here next Thursday, I think.
OG wasn't really part of the championship core, unfortunately, for him. But yeah. Look, Shams is pretty plugged into the Raptors. Chris Haynes, and then that guy from Bleacher Report who created all that controversy in the offseason, whose name I can't remember, Jake Fisher, who Scotty banned from his chat. Can't mention Jake Fisher. It's so funny. Scotty has the same energy towards Jake Fisher that I have towards Marco. It's just straight fire. Like, don't mention his name. I think that
seems like it's OG, because like it seems like that would be the
it does feel like it's OG
hardest move,
but it shouldn't be.
You're gonna get the most from OG. That's why I think.
Yeah, But I really hope it's not OG. Like I just really like OG, and I want him to stay forever, and I want him to retire a Toronto Raptor. That's just it's a vision of mine. I just don't want to see him go. Look, I've rebuilt the Raptors in NBA 2K like 150 times. I can tell you there are two players that I've never traded, Scotty and OG. And recently there's a third and fourth player that I never trade, which is Koloko and Precious Achua. I just don't want to trade these guys. I think that they have more room to grow. I can understand. I can talk myself into the OG stuff. I know why they would want to do it. You want to cash out on something, when it's hot, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Because the perception of a 25-year-old and the perception of a 26-year-old are different around the league. The perception of 1 year left on a contract and 2 years left on a contract are different. I get it. But if they do trade him, they better get a hell of a return. I don't want to see, oh, we got two future firsts and an expiring. Like that would break my heart. It better be like, and I mean, it seems like it will be the King's ransom because there seems to be quite a bit of interest around him, and there's literally not a single team in the league that couldn't use him. Like, not a single team. There's not one team that wouldn't sign him if they had the cap space. There is not one team in the league that wouldn't sign him for 25 million tomorrow. Easy. And he makes 17. So for a year and a half, you get a massive discount. He's one of the most valuable trade assets. The Siakam thing is a little bit different. Mo asked me earlier in the conversation. He said, "Who would you rather like? Who has more trade value?" Obviously, the guy who's producing almost equivalently, making half the money, has more trade value. Like because from the other team's perspective, that's less salary that you have to get back.
Yeah.
Like you could actually build a package around OG without gutting anyone from your core. 17 million. You give up 15 million on trade. That's basically like a couple of vets at the end of your bench and like one young prospect, and you probably make up that 15 million. You know what I mean? It's not hard to match salaries for OG. It's really difficult to match salaries for Siakam. 35 million. The Raptors have to agree to take the incoming player as well. And for that team, it's like if you're trading for Siakam, obviously 28-year-old, you're going all in right now to win. It doesn't make sense to gut your team, and what team out there can give you $32 million roughly of salary without gutting their team
and still be able to compete, right? Yeah.
and still be competitive. You know what I mean? So anyways, it's just, yeah. So I just think like relative to value of contract, like if every single dollar is worth a win or some percentage of a win, I think OG is worth like 200% of his contract, 180% of his contract. I think his value is like 180% of his contract, and I think Siakam's value is about 95% of his contract. That's why I think there's a disparity. Yeah. All right. Actually, no, that's unfair. I think Siakam's value is about 100% of his contract. I think he's earning his money, to be honest. But yeah. Anyway, Chris, thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it. Cheers. Next up, we got MSJ. MSJ, what up?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Well, I was going to talk about what you just talked about with OG.
Mhm.
I really I really would hate to see him go, but he is the best trade option. It's pretty obvious.
But here's my question to everyone who wants to trade OG, and I obviously don't, and I'm
Well, I don't
very
want to
firm on
trade
this.
him.
And look, it's just I'm getting anxiety about this guy getting traded. Like I don't want this to happen. Like the last there are two guys that I really just don't want traded as him and Scotty. Like everyone else, I'll sleep at night. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe not Koloko. I'm a very big Christian Koloko fan. But apart from those three, I could sleep at night knowing any one of these guys is traded. Even though I've come around a bit on Gary, I don't care if he's traded. I've come around a lot on Precious since last year. I wouldn't lose sleep if he was traded. But with Scotty, like especially when the Durant rumors heated up this offseason, like I think I was the first person to say that he was off the table in Durant talks. I never get credit for that, but I was the person who said it because I talked to
No,
someone
this summer, I
inside.
remember that.
Yeah, I went on Basketball Zone and I was like,
Yep.
Scotty and Evan Mobley are off the table. And I don't remember ever being like, oh, Rob broke that. But then like, I think it was next day we started hearing Scotty Barnes is off the table. And I was like, hey, that's my thing. Why don't I get credit for that?
I
Anyways.
just think, though, the problem with the Raptors and their losing season
Mm-hmm.
is that, you're going to have to shake things up. And Fred and Pascal are
But why lose? Why lose the 25-year-old? I'm not going to call him a DPOY candidate, but emerging. He's a real two-way talent. Okay,
I'm going to tell you Scotty. Why.
Okay, sure.
It's just because there needs to be a shakeup, and the two guys, well, Pascal and Fred, that people would say should be traded. Maybe, who knows? Are not guys that are easily traded. But
I think Fred is very easily traded. I think Fred is very easily traded. I think you're just going to have to adjust what you get back for him. But there's a number of factors very much that make trading Fred easy. Number one, he's playing out of his mind like the last month. So he's proven without a doubt that he can play that well, and that he can easily be the best point guard, backup point guard in the NBA, maybe after Malcolm Brogdon. So to a championship team that's really looking for highway impact, I'll tell you, Crafted has him as an all-star this year, and I agree. I think like his impact has been all-star level. I know he didn't deserve to make the all-star team, but he's a real two-way player. I know people don't see it, but like,
let me ask you a question then, like a real quick question. Every other team knows that Fred wants what he wants in a contract.
Sure. So what?
Are other teams going to say, okay, you're a backup point guard, but here's this huge contract.
You trade for him, you get his bird rights. So you can actually sign him, and he's an asset, right? And, I mean, you can negotiate it then, but at least you'll have his bird rights. Like, if you don't have his bird rights, you have no chance to sign him. You'd have to get under the cap. There aren't a lot of teams under the cap.
I don't mean that they wouldn't sign him. Are they going to sign him for what he wants? Are other teams going to sign Fred for what he wants?
Well, I think at some point as the other team, you're just going to have to bank on the fact that you want him more than some other team does, which is always going to be the case with unrestricted free agency. He is the most simple guy to understand on this team. There is no hidden agenda. There's nothing. He is going to go to the highest bidder. Okay. Yeah. I think with the Raptors, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first time he entered free agency, he went on JJ Redick's podcast, and I think he said if the Raptors offered him the same amount as another team, he would choose the other team just based on insult. So that's kind of who he is, right? He's going to go to the highest bidder. He wants the bag, right? That's it. That's what it's about. It's always been about that with him. He's very simple. But I always found people who are like money oriented to be really easy to figure out. It's people who are about other stuff that like are complicated. So
yeah, that's true. But
as the other team, so as the team that owns his bird rights, you have an advantage of 3 months to 4 months to sort of sell him on your organization, and then you get greater intel into him, and then you're kind of in the same boat. I understand that you're not going to be parting away with massive assets to get him, but I think the other thing that makes it easier for the Raptors to trade Fred VanVleet is half the fan base is already against him. Even now that he's been playing well, even one of his biggest detractors publicly have shifted my tune over the last 2 weeks. Seems like most fans just aren't willing to let it go. They're still saying he's like the most selfish guy on earth and should be traded. So if there was ever a guy where public perception is going to be on your side for trading him, it's probably him, right?
Yeah, well, I would agree with what you're saying, but I just don't think he's going to be moved. But to talk about something other than Fred VanVleet, Fred VanVleet, sorry, is the idea of Pascal's all-star snub.
Okay.
I just think that's why I kind of called it as well. I think it is a bit of a snub if you think about everything other than the last month of the season. And then if you think about the last month of the season, it kind of makes sense.
I mean, okay, so how many months old is the season now? We're talking really October should barely count, right? So it's November, December, January, right? October doesn't count, right? This is really November, December, January. It's 3 months. The season's been 3 months. Yeah. And he's played horseshit for a single month. And he missed another month.
That's true too, yeah.
Right? So really, right. He's been good for about 7 games, a bit of 1 month, and November. Sorry, October. So he was, wait, hold on. Season started in October, right? There were 7 games in October. He played well to start the season. Then November comes. He ended up getting injured, I think like it was very soon into November, like 6 games, 7 games into November, he was out against Dallas, right?
Yeah.
So he misses most of that month and a bit of December. He comes back in December and he's gangbusters, I guess, in December for the most part. He has a 52-point outing.
Yeah,
I
when
think
he came back, he was really good.
yeah,
But
and I
then he
mean
kind of
like, but
faded.
here's the interesting thing though. He hasn't really recovered on defense. I mean, first of all, I had issues with his defense like going back to last year. I mean, like one of the first videos of this channel's like existence, one of the very first videos was talking about how terrible his defense was and why he was the biggest reason why the Raptors were losing when he came back last year. Because the Raptors were rolling without him last year. So it was basically Scotty Barnes. I think he was averaging like 18 points per game or 17 points per game. Fred VanVleet was going nuts. And then Siakam comes back. And I tell you, it's like the whole freaking team's defense fell apart. They went from like a top 10 defense to the worst defense in the NBA with him back. One of the worst defenses in the NBA. You guys feel free to fact check me on that. I'm positive I remember that correctly. So I remember talking about this last year as well. It's the same thing happened last year. Goes out with an injury, comes back, defense is gone. This year, I don't think his defense was great to start the season. And I think it's just gotten progressively worse and worse and worse. With his size, with his role, with the defenders around him, like his matchup difficulty is so much easier than Scotty's on a night-to-night basis. I don't know if anyone's tracking that. Well, I mean, I know people are tracking that, but he's had an easier assignment on defense than Siakam, than Scotty and OG on a nightly basis, and
Yeah,
he's
it does seem
performing
that his
as
role is just a scorer on the team. That's kind of his role. He's the guy who's going
scorer
to score the ball.
facilitator. I think the facilitation matters because I think that's
Yeah, a little
the
bit of that too.
perceptive edge that he has on Randle. I'm just gonna post his season splits so that everyone can sort
But
of see
I
what
don't
we're
think
talking
that
about here.
Pascal is a bad player at all. I just think I think you sort of alluded to this a bit. I think in Raptor land,
Hmm.
we overhype him a little bit. But he's a good player. But for him
Hmm.
to be said to be an all-star snub this year, I think is a little bit of a reach. Like he's a good player.
I
It's
mean, he's
just that
definitely a
he's
snub,
not.
no?
What's that?
He's still a snub. Like, I mean, I don't think he's the biggest snub ever, but you don't even think he's a snub?
I think when it comes down to it, it was like Randall or him. And it's just that you look at the team record for one, and Randall's not having a. I mean,
I mean, look at your screen for a
okay, it's a
second.
snub if you're a Raptors
Yeah,
fan, but I don't think people around the NBA, other than Raptors fans, look at it as a snub. That's what I'm trying to say.
right. If you check your screen, I just posted his
Oh yeah,
splits. October was a really good month. November was a very bad month. But I mean, it wasn't a bad month. It's just, I mean, you know what? It was by his standards, 25% from three. His scoring was down massively. Shot attempts were down, rebounding was down, assists were down, steals were down, steals were even, blocks were down. Yeah, like turnovers were up. I think it was a bad month for him. And I mean, he played, and the 31 minutes per night. I mean, to everyone saying he's just super overworked, I get it, but I think that's also skewed by the fact that he got injured in the third quarter against Dallas in one of those games.
yeah,
So I think that those minutes probably would have been closer to 35 had he not 35, 36. But nevertheless, December he comes back and, that's his best month. December
yeah.
is
He is
for
who he
sure.
is in terms of his offensive ability, and his defense is good, but it's not spectacular,
But
as
look at the
everybody knows.
rebounding. Every single month it's gone down.
Yeah, he's
The
not. Maybe
assists
he's
have gone
tired,
down every single month.
but
Assists have gone
also,
down every single month. The steals have gone down every single month. Well, I mean,
yeah.
predictably, like it was a little bit higher in December than it was in October, November. But I think like you can see like sort of January was a big dip in steals. He's just gotten worse. He's faded as the season has gone on. And I think that, to those people out there, when I talk about game within a game, when I talk a season within a season, a lot of stars you'll see will sit games, rest games, take certain games easy, right? They don't burn out. They don't burn out the same way he does because he goes balls out all the time because that's how
Well,
hard he has to play to put up these
well, that
stats.
leads me to my. I'll just ask one more question.
Sure.
Okay, with Pascal, I always wonder if
Hmm.
he had a big body center in there, to kind of occupy the other team's big, would it be better?
I don't think so.
You don't think
He,
so?
that just brings a second defender over to him, and he's often an unwilling passer in those situations. Although there are moments where he executes brilliant passes, there are moments where he just decides he's going to go, and it doesn't really matter who's there, who's not, who's about to draw a charge. He'll bowl over people.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have that sense of like gamesmanship or what I
And
call like
like,
chess
do you mean he
mentality.
doesn't have the sense of like how the interior works in terms of setting screens and
I think
using space inside?
he doesn't have great forward vision, right?
Yeah.
Like, Kawada from Mars, thank you for the super chat earlier, by the way. So Siakam's being guarded by shooting guards. It's happened more often than you think, right? Way more often than you think, where teams have put a smaller defender on him and have taken him out. Dylan Brooks made his life a living hell. I mean, he's not a shooting guard; he's a small forward, but still,
Yeah.
the concept applies. If the Raptors face the Bulls, okay, Alex Caruso is one of the best defenders in the NBA by far, right? I think he'd make all NBA first team if that were, going to happen, right? Like right now, if
Yeah.
that vote happens, I think so. I think Alex Caruso not making first team all NBA would be criminal. He's been a really big reason why the Bulls have stayed afloat despite the mess that they're in without Lonzo, with Nick Vucevic playing the way he's playing. Did you see? Do you
Right.
remember how Scotty just took Alex Caruso and made him look like a little bitch, like in that on that dunk? Like he just like it was like Alex Caruso wasn't even there, right?
Yeah, he just went
That's
through him.
yeah. But if you put Caruso on Siakam, Siakam's gonna have the worst night of his life, and there's a lot to be said for that. Just in terms of, I think
Well,
like
I mean, Pascal's, I guess you could say, offensive game. There's a lot of finesse to it. There's a lot of
mhm.
hard shots he takes. He makes a lot of them as well. It's just I'd like to see him with a big body center in there and see what he could do. I think it would
I
help. I think it
mean,
would help the Raptors a lot as
He had
well.
Aaron Baines.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Too soon? Too soon for that? I mean,
No.
I'll get your reaction to one final thing now that I have
Okay.
you here. Check this out. So the Raptors were 7-12 when they traded Rudy Gay in 2013, and by the deadline that year they were 30-25, and they ended the season 48-34. And they were 17-19 at the halfway mark of the shortened season in Tampa. There's 72 game season because of the pandemic, and they ended 27-45. And they aggressively tanked uh, at the halfway mark. I think is when the tanking started, because I think very soon after they were like 19-28 or something. And then they were 31-23 at the deadline last year when they added Thaddeus Young, where they once again ended with 48-34. So we are 23-30 at this time. I have never seen this team go into. I don't think I've ever seen this team go into the trade deadline this bad under Masai
It's been
Ujiri's
a long
watch.
time. You know, I
It's
could
never
tell you.
happened. It's never happened.
No.
The first
Well,
year that Masai was here was the year was the year of We the North, wasn't it?
yeah, but I
Okay.
remember going to a Rudy Gay a game with the Raptors when he played the Hornets.
If you
It
tell me
was,
you're the guy who recorded that video, no, not this guy, I'm gonna laugh. It
no,
wasn't
no,
you.
no, no, no. I was in the stands, and I remember watching Rudy Gay play against the Hornets,
Uh
and
huh.
you're kind of putting memories into my head that kind of remind me of Pascal a little bit. I'm going to be honest, because it was the same kind of thing. He would take a lot of different shots,
Mm-hmm.
tricky. You'd think, oh, how can he not make that shot? But he would miss them, and it was like he wasn't trying.
I think he's a
Uh,
lot better than Rudy Gay. Just
no,
gonna
he's
put that
he's
out
way
there.
better than Rudy Gay. But you put that screenshot up, and that was the last time I remember the Raptors being in the position that we're in now.
Well, now people are gonna accuse me of propaganda. Thanks for that.
No, 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 no.
Yeah. No, I see the parallels, and a lot of people have been drawing the parallels. I think there was an article written very recently that I don't remember who it's by, but they said that the Raptors will need to recreate the magic of the Rudy Gay trade by trading either OG or Pascal for a glut of serviceable role players that maybe demand a little bit less usage. And
Yeah,
I see the rationale to that. I do. Guys like Dwight Powell, Brandon Clark, guys like that, guys who are just really good rotation players that do not require the ball in their hands to be effective. That move without the ball, I think, would unlock this team. The question is, if you're tanking and the season's already this gone, how much does that shift? Because, trade talks have been happening for months now. Like, this team has been bad for like almost a month and a half to 2 months. The wheels have been about to fall off for like a month and a half. There were probably moments where you considered an upgrade somewhere or a lateral move or giving up a pick to get a guy. And it's like, your thoughts have to change every single game that the record changes, right? To some
Yeah, but
extent.
I would just like to get out of this stage of limbo and
Yeah.
either say to
Rip
ourselves
the
here
Band-Aid
that,
off, right?
yeah, and say, okay, we're going to be bad in terms of a record, but we're going to be growing, and I can get behind that and follow a team in a growth stage
Mm-hmm.
rather than this limbo stage of like, I don't know what's going to happen game to game. It's just, it's
Yeah.
going nowhere sort of, and
Yeah.
it would be better if we made a trade, got some assets. If it's OG, so be it. Let's
Right.
get Dyson Daniels and some
Cool.
picks and
Yeah.
move on.
All right. Thanks for calling in,
Anyway,
SJ.
good
I
to
really
talk.
appreciate it. Yep. Good to
Yeah,
talk.
have a good night.
Have a good night. All right. Next up, we have MMA Headache. MMA Headache, what's up?
What's up, man? What's up? Nothing much. Just listening to the conversations, your conversations, stuff like that. And I don't know, man. Like, do you feel? Oh, is something wrong with my mic, by the way? Or is it?
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
It's very echoey and very boxy. Are you in a washroom or like?
Oh no, just like using my laptop.
There, it was a little bit better for a second there.
All right, what about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Yeah, man. Like, I feel like I understand like the trade. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the management understands the trade when it comes to OG for real. Because, I mean, yeah, he's been looking great, but he has so much weaknesses, so much flaws. They're just like, you know what? The thing is this, right? The thing is, we got
What
better.
player doesn't have flaws?
Oh, every player has flaws. Every single player has flaws.
But you think his flaws are more glaring?
Definitely not only that, bro, but the fact that we signed players that I feel like took his spot. Let's be honest, like the young players.
Who?
No, I won't say they actually took his spot, but I feel like they're moving towards the direction they want to go. They want to keep those guys instead of him. So I feel like they want Gary Trent, they want Precious, like OG Anunoby. Like, as great as he is, man, he cannot create separation for his own shot. He can't drive properly without falling down.
You remember that there was like a very credible moment, I think less than 5 weeks ago, where Jason Tatum said OG Anunoby will be an all-star. Remember that, right? Like it's not a figment of my imagination. That happened, right?
Right.
I don't think he's as bad as people are remembering him. I think he's been worse since Siakam came back. But a lot of that has to do, and it's not right when Siakam came back, but about 7 games after Siakam came back, he's just been different. And I think a lot of that has to do with just him wanting out of this offense. And, I find it very interesting that, all this talk about OG Anunoby wanting a bigger role, et cetera, et cetera. And look at the teams that are supposedly in the hunt for him. I call cap. There's no fucking way in hell that he's going to Memphis, where there's Jaren Jackson Jr., Dillon Brooks, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane. That's a lot of freaking offensive firepower, a lot of guys who take shots, none of whom are really going to sacrifice very much for him. And he'll still be like a 4th option there, or a 3rd option at best. At best, 3rd option. I don't think Dillon Brooks has given him shit. So let's be real. If he's willing to go to Memphis, if his agency is willing to let him go to Memphis, this isn't just about a bigger role. This is about a different role. Maybe this is about just not wanting to play in this dog shit offense anymore. I wouldn't blame him for 1 second, but I think that he's better than what you're saying. I think he's much better than Gary Trent. I think he's much better than Precious Achiuwa. And by the way, he's not that much older than those guys. Gary Trent Jr. just turned 24. OG's 25. Precious Achiuwa is 23. Again, OG's 25. I think the upside for Precious to be as good as OG is there, right? But OG's already there. Also, like, I don't know. I think there's a version, an alternate reality in which I think OG Anunoby is a starting small forward on a championship team. I think he is a starting small forward on a championship team. I think Scotty Barnes can be a starting point guard on a championship team. Eventually, when his handle gets better, his shot gets better. Not now. Not now, but soon. But I think OG Anunoby is the one guy on this team where I'm like, that guy could be a starter on a championship team. If you replace him with Andrew Wiggins last year, I think they still win. I think they win by more. So, or maybe they just win. Like, I cannot understand the rationale of moving off a guy who's 25 years old and who's this good. And this fitted to how you want to play. And this close to your future franchise player in Scotty Barnes. I don't get it. That's just where I'm at right now.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. But I mean, if you want to keep him so bad, you have to move somebody else, obviously. Like,
yeah, I'm fine with that. I'll move like out. There's 16 players on this team. I move 14 of them before I touch OG. That's where I'm at.
Okay, but like with the player of his value, you have to win, right? Like if you're an elite 3-and-D player, that's a guy that impacts winning so much.
He's not in a contract year. He's not in the same boat as Fred and Gary. And you could easily rest him, extend his injuries, and tank with him. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be overly upset about that, provided you give him like you got to tank like in a very creative way. Like for his numbers, you rest him on back-to-backs like a lot of other stars are doing. You give him nights that you give Scotty off because, Lord knows you have to force Scotty Barnes to not exert himself too much, like, limit his minutes or whatever. Let him play against really bad teams and put up like massive stats if that's what he needs to do for his next contract. There's a very easy way to tank with OG in the lineup. It's not so easy to tank with Fred in the lineup, though. I'll tell you that. He impacts winning in a way that Fred's impact on winning is about as good as OG's, if not better. Okay. And he's not going to sit. Like he's not going to sit. He's not going to sit if he can walk, he'll play because he's got a serious bag on the line. He's chasing every dollar of it. I'd rather he chase it on some other team personally.
Right. But
because I don't see him as a starting point guard on a championship team, and I don't see him willing to be a shooting guard on this team. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. He definitely, like Fred, definitely. I mean, he's been up and down. But like the only like the issue is like who's going to be like our backup point guard also. But I feel like the reason, like Fred, honestly, as much as I like people have issues with him, for me, I don't know, man. I just got a problem with. I don't have a problem, but I see why people want to trade OG, like straight up, because Gary Trent, I feel like he's holding other young players back, in my opinion. Like Gary Trent, and
you think OG's holding Gary back? OG does nothing but help his teammates, man. He spaces out, he moves in the right direction. He I know it looks awkward as hell, but he does play make. He guards, he covers when Fred and like I just, you know what? Here's the thing. There was a moment about 2 months ago when the Scotty slander picked up so hard that I privately said to somebody that I'm not going to name who, and I said, if he gets traded, I'll be happy for him. Scotty, because I was just so sick of how unappreciated all the stuff he was doing was and how much people were slandering him. I said, you know what? Y'all deserve to lose him. If you're going to talk like this about someone, you deserve to lose him. I'm starting to feel the same way about OG. I tell you right now, have you ever lost have you ever been in a relationship with a girl that you thought was kind of like and then you saw her with the next dude and you were like, oh shit. She fixed up real nice, right?
Right.
When you see OG Anunoby as a starting small forward on whatever team trades for him in the playoffs, I think you're going to see what this guy was capable of. If he gets traded, I think it'll be a move that Raptors regret. I'm just being straight. I think they're going to regret it. I think he's better than his stats show. I think the advanced analytics are not super high on him. They're just not. But I think if you put him, I'm telling you, if Portland trades for him right now, oh my God, he's going to be dropping 25 to 27 every other night. And you're going to be like, oh my God, why couldn't he do this with us? And I think you'll see the impact of putting him next to a real star like Dame Lillard. putting him in an offense with screeners and an offense that makes sense. I just think that this offense suffocates the life out of anyone who's not Fred and Pascal and Gary to some extent. You know, guys who can get their offense that way. I don't know. I trust my eyes. I trust my eyes on OG. I acknowledge that he's not a perfect player. I acknowledge that he's not as far as some people want him to be. I acknowledge that he's maybe not as good as I had hoped he would be at this stage. But I still think he's a starting small forward on a championship team.
Right, absolutely. But
yeah.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, OG, man. Like, okay, I know, like, yeah, sure, he'll go to Portland and give you 25 or whatever a night.
I said every other night. I don't want to say he averaged 25. Okay. He'll give you 25 every other night. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. But what the heck does that have to do with our situation? He's
25 years old is what it has to do with your situation. You're talking about Vision 6'9", and you literally trading the most versatile and like this guy. You know, in terms of defensive matchup difficulty on a night-to-night basis, you know who is the number one hardest matchups every single night across the league. I'm not talking on the Raptors. OG Anunoby, and in that role of covering 1 through 5, guarding centers, boxing out for fucking Pascal Siakam to grab his rebounds, spacing out, setting screens, all the shit that he does, bro, like I feel bad for this dude. I feel bad because he's not getting credit for the work that he's actually putting in. His impact on winning is significant. It's significant. And to people who think that Precious Achiuwa can just step in and replace him, I think you're wrong. To people who think Pascal Siakam's a better player than him, barely. Like it's close between these two. I get why people feel the way they do about him because he has these awkward drives and sometimes he dribbles it off his foot and he's very upright and it doesn't look pretty, but basketball doesn't always have to look pretty, you know? Case in point, Jeremy Sohan is shooting free throws one-handed, and they look super ugly, right? Rick Barry used to shoot them underhanded. It doesn't matter. It just goes in. So I think it doesn't matter how OG looks on the court. To me, he's a guy who contributes to winning. He's a guy who fits in with winning. He moves off the ball. He does the right things. When I watch these games, when I break down plays, I'll tell you right now, I do a mistake counter every single game of how many mistakes I think a player made on offense and defense. He's one of the most error-free players on this team. I just disagree. Yeah, if Masai moves him, it would be probably the second time that I disagree with the decision by Masai Ujiri.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, Trent, I was gonna say that, like, Trent, he just got on the team last year, I think. OG's been here since 2017. Would you say that Trent is getting more touches than OG at this point?
He does get more touches.
Right.
He has higher usage.
That's because he's better.
He's not.
That's why he's getting more touches. If OG was the man, he would have had more touches than Gary Trent a long time ago. But Gary Trent is the better scorer. He's taken more opportunities. He's tied some records with DeMar. I think like 30 points, 5 straight games, and he's only like 24 now. So I feel like he's making a come up, man, and he's doing a lot of things.
Question for you. Okay, how old are you? Just curious, off the top of my head.
I'm 21.
You're 21. Okay. Do you think you're good at talking? Like, do you think like you have a gift for the gab? Like, you're good at talking to people?
100%. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're really good at talking to people, right? Yeah. So in our conversation, I have spent about 85% of the time talking, and you've spent about 85% of the time listening. Am I way better at talking than you?
Maybe.
But maybe not. I just happen to be talking more than you because this is my show, right? I'm talking more than you because this is my show. If I called into your show, maybe you would talk a lot more and I would listen a lot more. Do you know why that is? And that's kind of the point. OG Anunoby is in Siakam's offense. Siakam is not in OG Anunoby's offense. We cannot say what Siakam looks like in OG Anunoby's offense because we've never seen it. So this type of circular logic to me doesn't make sense. To me, the Raptors played pretty well without Siakam in large part because of how well OG Anunoby played. Okay? That's kind of where I'm at. If you take Siakam, like they were just missing Siakam. Siakam had OG. OG didn't have Siakam. That's the difference. And the Raptors were 500. Granted, some people say, oh, they were beating some pretty bad teams. They lost to some pretty bad teams with Siakam and OG back. I'm just saying, to those of you who say that Siakam is like this top 15 guy and OG is like some fucking dog water, 60th or 70th best player, I think that the league is telling you very clearly that rival GMs who get paid millions of dollars to manage NBA teams are telling you very clearly, number one, that they do not think that that Pascal Siakam is an all-star this year, and number two, that they would rather trade 3 future picks for OG Anunoby, then Pascal Siakam. Find me a team that will trade 3 valuable, I don't mean, top 20 protected bullshit 2029 pick. I'm talking 3 valuable picks. Find me a team that'll trade 3 valuable picks for Pascal Siakam, and I will find you a liar, because it's not going to happen. I just think that OG is being criminally underrated here, and it's sort of sad. I think it's sad to see, but I think that it is a symptom of how this fan base likes to think. And it's something that I've had an issue with for 20 plus years, and this channel is trying to change that. So, MMA Headache, thank you for calling in. I hope this conversation gave us both something to think about. I think it's great to disagree about things. We can disagree on OG and still be friends. Thanks for tuning in, man.
You too. By the way, OG is the most loved Raptor though. Like everybody loves OG in Toronto. You walk around, you see people with number 3, wearing number 3 all the time. So I feel
the Scotty Barnes is the leading jersey seller. Second was Pascal among the Raptors, and third was Fred. So OG's not even top 3 in jersey sales on his own team, and that's in Canada. So I don't agree with that, but I agree that he's generally beloved.
And he's been on there longer. But yeah, anyways. Yeah.
All right, man. Take care. See ya. Okay, we have a full queue. Okay, we got Oak Tree 34, Mateo, Jace, and then we got Your Goat. We're about an hour and 30 into this. So let's try to keep these calls to about 7 minutes, unless there's something legendary to say. Oak Tree 34, man, what's going on?
Hey, man, nothing much. Yeah, I'm loving the conversation. OG, I agree with you. I don't want to see OG go. To see him go up against Jokic one night and then take a guard the next, forward, and basically nullify them, that's invaluable. The Raptors were looking for somebody like that forever, if you recall. And then now we have a homegrown guy who actually wants to be here. He's just upset at his role. And I think that Pascal and Fred were, just... I don't know if it's all their fault. I have to blame Nurse a bit, but everything flowing through them was nonsense. And you saw it last year when Pascal was injured. OG flourished, and so did Trent.
It pisses me off to see a guy who works his ass off as hard as OG does, who sacrifices as much as OG does. He's never put himself above winning, ever. I've seen moments this year where I can see that his thought process is different than in previous years, where he's taking a shot that in previous years he wouldn't have taken. But this is just one of the best teammates. And selflessness shows up in so many areas. It shows up in making obvious passes, but it also shows up in passing up a good shot for a great shot for one of your teammates. OG does that constantly. And to see a guy play that way for a team, to guard the hardest guy every single night so that, other guys can rover and pick up steals, right? Like, I got to tell you, Siakam and, in the past, Siakam, especially this year, Gary Trent and Fred VanVleet, these guys would not be anywhere close to competent defenders without OG Anunoby or Scotty Barnes doing everything that they do on a nightly basis. To me, it feels like you have 2 guys who are like workhorses for your team. They're doing all the dirty work on offense. They're doing all the bullshit on defense, while the other guys get to be the top usage guys. And it's just because these 2 guys care about winning a lot, and they're willing to do the dirty work because Siakam's not doing it. And, earlier in the season, you would often see like OG kind of like waving his hands up, like pissed off. And he stopped doing it recently because I think he's just kind of given up on waiting for Siakam and Fred VanVleet to play the right way. I just think that, as I said in the last call, I see him as a third option on a championship team. I could see Scotty as a second option or a first option on a championship team, depending on where his progression grows. I just see these 2 guys as guys you win with. I think other teams rightfully would trade for these guys as the top 2 assets on your team. And then after that, it's dicey. I mean, we've heard that. I mean, the last caller said that Gary was better than OG. We've heard 3 first rounders being offered for OG. We've heard late first, maybe 2 seconds for Gary. That's the gap. And by the way, Gary's younger. Gary's younger too. So I think there's such a big gap, but because this fan base, and I don't mean to be rude, but I think this fan base is so obsessed with that one number of points per game, and just this one-minded way of looking at basketball, which is like, it's actually derived from hockey, I think. Because
Exactly.
goal scorers, right? Goal scorers in hockey get like all the credit, right? But it's like defensemen, enforcers, all these guys that contribute and create pathways for goal scorers. And I feel like, you know, it's a blind spot, man. But like, you don't want to see this team without OG, like especially when, and I know how this fan base is when it comes to FOMO, and I know what OG is going to become. Like, I just feel like I know what he's going to become on his next team if they trade him. If they trade him to a contender, I'll tell you right now, you're going to be watching this guy in the playoffs for a lot of games this coming off season.
Well, look how great what's his name is playing in Brooklyn.
Utah.
If he's
fallen off. He's fallen off a cliff lately. With the
he has lately. Yeah, but still, exactly. You're right. With somebody to help create, right?
Yeah.
But you take, regardless, it's a shame. You got to get rid of. A lot of guys are gonna disagree with this, but you know, before I even go there, you made the hockey analogy. It's a shame that the likes of Doug Smith and these other guys, they are hockey guys, right?
They are.
So
Grange, all these guys.
Yeah,
they grew up around it. That's how they think. They talk about basketball like it's hockey.
Yeah, but do they really? Because for me, I've watched a lot of hockey. You know, I grew up in Canada. I watched a heck of a lot of hockey in my life.
Right.
I've always loved the Messier, you know, Scott Stevens. I like the guys who get in there, Tucker, the guys who aren't scoring, the guys who are doing all the dirty work, the guys who are grinding in the corner. It seems like Toronto media has always loved those guys. But when it comes to basketball, it's like they don't get it. I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm gonna play this in the background with the audio off, just because I made this mix for OG. This was the first basketball mix I'd made in 8 years. Made it 2 years ago, and this is just OG's B-roll going to play in the background while we talk.
Nice,
so
man,
people
nice.
can remember how good he is. Remember, I don't shoot to miss.
Oh, yes, exactly. And the pass, the lovely pass as well. That was something to behold, man. That was, oh my God. And I felt for the guy getting injured in the championship run. That hurt me so much. It's funny. That hurt me, and seeing what's the name? I have to call him Itty Bitty Baller because of the commercials. What's his name? Went to Memphis. What's his name? The center we had went to Memphis.
Oh, Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, JV. Right. I felt sad when he left as well. Right. But you got to give something to get something, and there's no way we beat Philly without Gasol, right?
I don't know why this video is so choppy. I mean, I have no idea. Anyway, yeah. Oh, hold on. Maybe I just pull it full thing and let it play. Okay, perfect. Maybe that's a little bit easier. Can everyone still hear us? Just confirming that everyone can still hear us. Chat, can you let us know that Oak Tree, you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. So anyway, like I think, I think it'll be regretful. Hiam Dirks says, I can hear the passion in this caller's voice.
Yeah, I've watched so much, like before we even got an NBA team, you know, it was, you know, and I hate, this is blasphemy for everybody, but you know, my brother grew up a Lakers fan, and because he was a Lakers fan, I became a Celtics fan. So I was Celtics up until we got a team, basically, right? Yeah. And you know, just to see beautiful basketball, to see, you know, unselfishness. I don't know if it's all of these these agencies who are, you know, telling these guys how to play to get the maximum money and that's a big reason why I really started listening to you, because you brought that side out where it was almost a blind spot for me, where, you know, I'm kind of like, why is Fred playing like this? Like, I watch a lot of NCAA as well. Every year watch the tournament. And when he was in Wichita, he was playing like how he is right now. And I'm like, why wasn't he playing like that, you know, last year or, you know, in the early part of this year? And then it's like, you know what? Contract. You know what? You're trying to sweeten the pot, trying to make yourself look better to get a better deal. That's fine as long as you're not hampering the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Once that happens, you have as an individual have to say this isn't working, because if the team isn't winning, you're not going to get paid, buddy. And that's what these guys don't understand.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people, will value winning. I don't say unfortunately. Fortunately, a lot of people value winning, but a lot of people just look at the stats. And, if you have trainers who are in your ear, and a lot of trainers are in their players' ear of like, oh, you got to get up to 25 points per game if you want the bag, or you got to get up to this. Every trainer in the world is thinking, and every agent in the world is thinking about the same thing, which is that cap boom in 2 years, and everyone's trying to pad their stats. And it's so obvious to watch when people play that way. And that's the way a lot of guys on this team have been playing, especially guys who are online for a contract in the next 18 months. But lost in the shuffle is that OG is one of those guys. And he is well within his rights to want to pursue an opportunity. I mean, he has out-earned every... Okay, in Raptor history, I don't think there is a single player who... Okay, it's hard for me to say because of all the injuries. But had he not been injured, there would never have been a player in Raptor history who out-earned his contract more than OG. He was an immediate contributor as a 23rd overall pick. 23rd overall picks get peanuts. He was a starter from day one. The
funny thing is, I agree. I don't mean to cut you off. It's exactly what you said. He's 23, but in my heart, and I remember watching the draft, if he's not injured coming into that draft out of Indiana, he's top 10.
Easy top 10. Yeah, he would have been 8th or 9th. And I think it's just like, you get this insane value, and then somehow you double down on that value by getting him in this crazy low deal. His last contract was criminal. I remember saying...
It was brutal. I was like, what the hell is he doing? Yeah, but you know what, though? Was that him saying, I've been injured so much? You know what? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. But I tell you, if he had tested, his agent gave him bad advice on that contract. So I tell you, if he had tested his value, he would have gotten 25 easy. He settled for 17. That's a big difference. 17 to 25 is a gap, like a big gap.
Would you say right now you got him for another 17? Would you just say now, here's 25, here's 30? Extend him out 3-4 more years now?
I don't think he's extension eligible right now. I think he'll be extension eligible very soon. Okay. But when he becomes extension eligible, I would sign him to 30 easy. Wow.
There you go.
I would lose zero sleep. 30, 32, no problem. It's when you get into 35 range that you start worrying about how difficult it might be to build. But he deserves it, man. Like I'm telling you, like for a guy who makes 17, he gives you the impact of a guy who makes 32. And as a first round pick, a 23rd overall pick, he gave you the value of a top 5 pick right out of the gate. I just think that this is a player who deserves better. He doesn't ask for much. He's a good person, like a really good person. You can tell. I've never met OG Anunoby, but he's definitely one of the people on this team that I just always feel like just cares about his teammates, just cares about winning, cares about playing the right way. I don't want to see him traded. I've gone back and forth a couple of times about like what kind of package I'd be okay with, but to be honest, I'm just not okay with any package. I want him and Scotty to be together. I want them to stay together. I think that there are very few teams in the league that can boast 2 guys like that on defense. If you can put them around other defenders who can actually make sense for them, and they're not always covering for 3 guys who don't play defense. I mean, I'm not saying Fred doesn't play defense, but Fred is the 3rd best defender in that lineup, in my opinion.
Yeah. Fred, it's sad. Yeah, the height is a real.
Look, if Fred VanVleet's 6'5", he's the best player on this team.
Hands down. Hands down.
But he's not. So that's just the reality. Yeah, that's like me saying if Scotty Barnes had a jump shot, he'd be the best player on this team. That's also true, but he doesn't have one. So, anyway, thanks a lot for calling in, man. I think the second time you called in, I always appreciate your comments, and just really nice to hear from you.
Definite, man. Definite.
Cheers.
All right, man. Good night.
Good night. Okay, so we actually did keep that call under 10 minutes. Next up, we have Mateo, then Jace, then your goat, then the house. The house has never called in before. I'm very curious. Okay, Mateo, what's up?
Rob, you hear me?
I hear you.
Awesome. All right. Well, love the conversation so far.
Thank you.
It's sad mourning the potential loss of OG right now.
Mhm.
But while thinking about it, I just got to say that I just think that I kind of disagree with you, minor.
Sure.
I think that he's the best one to trade, and I think they should trade him out of the other ones.
Okay.
Let's just start with the first part of it. I think that the way I interpreted the Chris Haynes podcast was
Mhm.
how it wasn't necessarily that he wanted a different role. I know that Jake Fisher reported on that a year prior, but the way I understood it is that Chris Haynes
It's more like
pretty
7 months
he said
prior,
like
but yeah.
a change of scenery, right? He was looking for a change of scenery out of Toronto, different atmosphere, different people.
Right.
And the way I understood is that he's not really looking for that big role. I think he would welcome, the way I understood is he would welcome a move to Pelicans or the Grizzlies, even though it's like obviously a diminished compared to Toronto.
Uh-huh.
But if that's the case, I just don't see a way that, especially because Haynes hinted that he already informed management, which if that's the case and it's true, it's hard to see us moving forward with him if he's going to be a potential free agent. And trust me, as you know, like people are going to offer him so much money because of how valuable he is. And
okay, but that's
let me just finish my point here.
Yeah.
I just think that OG gets by far the most in return. Everyone said on the podcast, and I don't think it's even close. You mentioned it yourself. Pascal Siakam is not getting free first. Fred VanVleet, the way we see it is he's playing great recently, but the way other teams see it is he's on an expiring deal, and they don't think that you're going to be willing to pay both Trent and Fred. Plus, he's 28. He's not as valuable. We get that part of it. Trent, it's laughable how little other teams think of him at this point. He's pretty much going for what Eric Gordon is being reported to go for, which is laughable, like considering his age and his like defensive ability compared to Gordon. But
he's not that good a defender.
And furthermore, like OG, let's just remember what Masai was able to do with Carmelo when he was on an expiring deal, pretty much ready to go to the Knicks. Like Masai was able to get a haul. And I don't know if you by any chance saw the Bobby Marks interview on ESPN, but he basically was explaining how the way it worked was Masai put two people on a call against each other, like as a bidding war. He put Brooklyn and New York against each other in a bidding war just for Carmelo, which made the price go higher. And there's no other player that I can see getting that kind of attention than OG. The amount of assets that you can get. Let me just throw out an idea for you and tell me what you think. The way I was seeing this, and this might not be the best package of them all, but the New York Knicks, after losing out on Donovan Mitchell, which is funny because if I remember from last time, I don't think any Raptors fans at that moment, maybe now it would be different, was willing to trade OG for Donovan. Am I right about that? Like at that moment, it was a bit like unsure.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of the people who, I believe I was one of the first people to bring up the Donovan Mitchell to Toronto trade package on Basketball Zone. I went on there and I proposed the package, but my package was Fred and Gary.
Right.
And like 3 first-round picks or something like that.
Yeah, exactly that. That's my point, is how we weren't even willing to trade OG for Donovan Mitchell. And I'm looking on the Knicks podcast, and they're not even willing to give up their first. They're like their own first at this moment. But like regardless, this is my potential trade package here, which I see can be beneficial for the Raptors. Where it's
sure. Let's ask the chat. What's your trade package? The
way I see it is, obviously, they're not getting IQ here. The way the Knicks think of IQ is beyond, for me anyways. And they're not getting Grimes because they weren't even willing to give Grimes in the deal. So the way I see it is the Knicks would be willing to trade Obi Toppin. Hold on.
You think that the Knicks wouldn't trade Emmanuel Quickley and Quentin Grimes for OG Anunoby?
No, I do not. I listen. This is, trust me. I was listening to Knicks Fan TV, the great podcast. They were talking as if they're not even willing to give their own first round pick for OG. How it's messed up, I know.
No, it's not messed up. It's just wrong. It's
is.
not true.
It is
It's
true.
not true.
It is true.
No, it's not. You're not just going to tell me something's true. I'm telling you it's not true. I talk to people in the New York media. That's not true.
Rob,
at
they
all.
weren't willing to give. They weren't willing to give.
I don't care.
Grimes for Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, Mateo.
They weren't willing to.
Respectfully, buddy, that's not true. Okay? Do you have Knicks fans that were saying just 2 weeks ago that Quentin Grimes is better than Scotty Barnes? Okay? Like, I think at some point you're going to have to take fan opinion for what it is.
No,
it's just chatter.
No, you saw on the reports, Rob. Come on, man. You saw on the reports that they weren't willing to give Quentin Grimes for
who?
Donovan Mitchell at the time.
Donovan
Yeah, Donovan
Oh
Mitchell.
my God. Okay. Do you really do you know why? Number one, do you think the deal was Quentin Grimes for Donovan Mitchell? Do you think that was the deal?
It was a lot more than that. But
Okay.
So they wanted to keep They want.
Do you know how much Donovan? Do you know how much Quentin Grimes makes?
Forget about what he makes. I'm saying that at that time they believed that they were in prime position.
I'm not going to forget about what he makes. I'm asking you a question. Do you know how much he makes? Is it more or less than $5 million?
Less.
Okay. Do you know how much Donovan Mitchell makes?
Over 30.
Okay. So this is kind of like saying I don't want to include Christian Coloco in a deal for Kevin Durant. It doesn't mean you wouldn't trade Christian Coloco for Kevin Durant. It just means that with all the shit you're going to have to trade to make that deal work, you don't want to add this young prospect. It's kind of like how the Minnesota Timberwolves didn't want to trade McDaniels, right? They didn't want to trade McDaniels in the trade for Gobert, so they added an extra pick, right? And they gave up Walker Kessler, which looks like a mistake now. It's just saying that there's this young guy we don't want to get rid of. It doesn't mean we wouldn't trade Quentin fucking Grimes for OG Anunoby. I'll tell you right now that the Knicks would trade Quentin Grimes and Obi Toppin and 3 first-round picks for OG Anunoby that.
No, that's wrong. I'm sorry to say that's wrong.
All right, Mateo. This conversation has run its course, buddy. I'm sorry. You're wrong. I don't care why you think you're right. It doesn't really matter to me. You have an opinion. I'm telling you you're wrong. We can agree to disagree, but you're not just going to tell me that like I don't know what I'm talking about, because I do. On this one, I do. Okay? You're listening to Knicks fucking fans TV. I'm talking to actual scouts who work. I can't say who exactly they work for, but they work in the New York area, and I know how much they want OG. They're willing to trade Quentin fucking Grimes. They like Quentin Grimes. They don't like Quentin Grimes more than OG.
Just to clarify, you're saying they're willing to trade Quentin Grimes, Obi Toppin, and 3 first-round picks.
Okay, maybe not 3 firsts, but at least a first and a swap, at least. And Obi Toppin is not that valued.
Okay.
Okay, so let me get your perspective. You think that they wouldn't, if the salaries were even, if Quentin Grimes and OG Anunoby, you think they wouldn't make a 1-for-1 swap Quentin Grimes for OG Anunoby?
No, I think they would. Of course they would.
Okay. So
I'm saying at the time they weren't willing to, because they believed that with their first round picks, the Knicks could have gotten Donovan Mitchell without giving up Quentin Grimes.
The prime asset going out towards the Jazz in a trade for Donovan Mitchell. There's hold on.
RJ Barrett.
Okay, I feel like the chat needs me to address this, so I'm just going to address this, and then we're going to part ways. Number one, there's 2 things that are very different about the Donovan Mitchell situation than the OG Anunoby situation. Number one, Donovan Mitchell already wanted to go to the Knicks. So there was already an expectation by the Knicks that they were going to get him in free agency, and they didn't want to overpay for him. Number one, it wasn't one of those situations where you're trading for OG, where there's actually no history with him and your organization. There's no agency, connection, and there's no notion that he definitely is going to come there in the offseason anyway. So you're actually trading for him. Number two, it's not a midseason trade. That was an offseason trade. Midseason, teams get very emotional about trying to preserve their playoff seedings. That's different. Number three, OG Anunoby makes half as much as Donovan Mitchell. Okay, that is a difference, because the prime piece going back to the Jazz in that Knicks trade would have been RJ Barrett, not Quentin Grimes.
So
Danny got really greedy because he wanted Quentin Grimes plus RJ Barrett plus picks, and they started haggling on picks, or they started haggling on Grimes. But the end result is that the prime piece going back was always going to be RJ Barrett. You're not asking for RJ Barrett. Of course, you're going to get picks back. You're going to get multiple picks back.
From the Knicks' perspective, they are not going to give up as much as they were willing to give up for Donovan for OG. That is just not true.
They are going to give up 80%.
They valued at the time Donovan Mitchell more than they value OG right now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, they'd be stupid not to, but it's not as big a
And there were
difference as you think it
reports that
is.
they weren't willing to give Quentin Grimes in a hypothetical
Okay,
package where the
dude,
money.
I don't know if you have a logical deficit in how you're interpreting my sentence, but I'm going to say this again. The prime piece going out in a Donovan Mitchell trade would be RJ Barrett. Okay? That's the prime piece
No,
that
they
you're
valued
losing.
Quentin Grimes more, Rob. Come on. They valued him more. They wanted Quentin Grimes, not RJ Barrett. That was anyways, my whole point is that
Do you know Danny Ainge? Do you know him personally? Is he on your speed dial?
Look up
So
the
why are
report.
you talking about something with such conviction that you think you know? You don't know.
I'm
Quentin
basing-
Grimes is a young prospect that the Knicks are very excited about. Yes, they do not feel about him the way they feel about RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett, like, I mean, you could say it's close, but the prime piece going back to the Jazz was RJ Barrett, and they wanted Quentin Grimes, and they wanted picks, right? Like, can someone in the chat like confirm this? Like, this is crazy to me. I'm sorry. like you were just talking about like, are you Quentin Grimes' agent? Like, why are we talking about Quentin Grimes like he's even on the same conversation as OG? He's not.
No,
He's not.
He's not. But the point is that they think they can get OG without Quentin Grimes.
How do you know that? There's a fucking 20 team bidding war for this guy. How do you know what the Knicks think that they can get? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little worked up because it's just like the conviction that you're talking with this total nonsense about is really frustrating because it's not true. It's not even remotely true. And nothing that I've heard from anyone who would be plugged into this situation would even remotely think this.
Before I leave, can I just throw out like the hypothetical trade package here? Just very quickly. Okay. So the way I thought about it is obviously you're in the opinion that Grimes would just push that to the side for now. The way I see it is they get Obi Toppin, they get the Knicks first round pick this year, get the Mavericks first round pick this year as well, which in the end actually would give the Raptors 3 first round picks in this draft. So 3 young prospects on very reasonable contracts, which you can plug and play immediately next year, which is their goal, to be competitive next year.
Hold on. It's Obi Toppin and who? Obi Toppin plus?
Toppin for that was like those are the main pieces, the 3 first round picks.
It's not 3 first round picks. You said 2 first round picks.
I was gonna say the next one. The next one was the Milwaukee 2025 first. And then they were gonna add both they're gonna add Derrick Rose as well to make the money work.
Oh wow, that's wow. Okay, so Obi Toppin, Derrick Rose, and those 3 first round picks. So a first round pick to a team that's probably in the Dallas Mavericks going to finish with 20th pick or better. In the case of the Knicks, with OG Anunoby coming in, probably going to finish 4th or 5th in the East. So that's another 20-something pick. And with Milwaukee, who has the best player in the league in 2025.
You know that John Hollinger, a former Memphis executive, actually said that if a team offered 3 first round, like a good 3 first round picks, the deal would be done already.
Yeah, those were 3 bad first round picks that you just presented. Those are all bad first round picks.
I gave you 2 top 17 picks.
All right, we're done here, Mateo. Cheers. Have a good one. It's just absolutely ridiculous. The New York Knicks pick is a good pick this year. If you're 6th and you're trading for OG Anunoby, where are you gonna finish? 5th in the East. That's a 20 pick. That's a top 20 pick in a draft that's top heavy. How is that a great pick? I don't get it. I'm sorry that call went way longer than I wanted it to. I'm sorry. Next up we got Jace. Jace, what's up?
Hey, what's up? Is my mic? Everything good? Mic check.
Everything's good.
All right. I just heard that last caller that was now we know why Masai hates the Knicks.
Because of Knicks Fan TV? Who the fuck is Knicks Fan TV, bro? It's not. It's like me speaking on behalf of the Raptors. I don't speak on behalf of the Raptors.
I know.
Brandon saying, "Can you please be respectful to your callers?" You know what, Brandon? It's kind of a weird situation because you've given a super chat, so I'm going to say thank you for the super chat. But I don't think that telling someone that they are wrong should warrant me needing to be respectful. I'm just going to keep it 100. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Like, you can just, maybe, like, I feel like there's a sensibility that I'm offending with people where I'm just like, I don't want to hear this. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just like, am I wrong? I don't know. Like,
No,
let
you're
me
not
know.
wrong, dude.
Jeez,
Like
like
I just
I'm
like
tired of getting lectures on how to behave. Like this is, I'm not,
yeah.
I'm not saying anything derogatory. I'm not saying anything overly rude. I'm trying to be respectful. But if you're just gonna come on and tell me that the Knicks wouldn't trade Quentin Grimes for OG Anunoby like it's fucking gospel, I'm sorry. That's just not true. It's not true. It's just not true. Okay. It's just it bothers me. I don't know. Like it's just when people start, because it's like you never know who's listening, right? Now I got to like fucking deal with the fact that 3,000 people are going to watch this, and then someone's going to be like, "Oh yeah, well I heard that the Knicks." It's just like these rumors start. You need to squash them, in my opinion. But anyway, Brandon, thanks for your comment. I believe everyone has a right to an opinion.
No, that was
Um,
ludicrous though. Like what he was like, evaluating, like that was like the way he was talking is like he's trying to sell that, or he was just mad that the Knicks haven't already got OG for that deal or whatever. That was just so ludicrous, especially with all the other teams that are bidding, like in bidding wars to try to get OG right now. Like they're already
yeah,
preparing.
like whoever is
Like,
Quentin
bro,
Grimes' agent, like that guy is like GOAT because he's convinced this Knicks fan base that he's
he thinks
better
he's
than
the
Scotty
next
Barnes.
MJ.
Jesus Christ. I'm so sick and tired of Knicks fans talking about Quentin Grimes, bro. Like, I used to live in New York. I cannot stand that fan base on so many levels. Just sheer stupidity of it. Yeah. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, so I mean, overall, I just think I just want to talk about like the entire situation with OG and everything, and I feel um like there's a lot of points you said like OG like we would deeply regret like if he left, like he would be like an insane, like not insane player, but he'd be like really good, and we'd be like trouble in the playoffs a lot. I honestly think that like on our team we could make OG like a number one or number two option as long as we
Number one?
not number one, like a top at least three option.
Mm-hmm.
If like I don't know like why nobody's like I don't know why Masai and everyone's not like contemplating this. Maybe they are, but like just trading Fred VanVleet and Pascal solves so many problems, right? It moves everything with the timeline of all our guys to the same timeline. It focuses on like the pillars of whatever, like Scotty and OG, and it's gonna mix focus everyone on defense. Our defense
Mm-hmm.
becomes instantly better, right? And not only that is that we let those guys shine and we let those guys lead by example. Like we need those people to be the ones that are leading our effort, our focus onto
Mm-hmm.
the newer guys that are coming in, right? So like if we have these leaders or whatever so and so called leaders that are just playing this ISO style, playing for contracts, or I mean you could say they're not always playing for a contract, but it just feels like that. That effect is gonna have on everyone else, right? Like you want the top people, right, on your team to be those selfless playmakers, those passers. And I've seen that so much from OG. Like I've seen him go crazy, like go do all that dirty work, pass up everything, let
Mm-hmm.
everyone else take shots, like everyone else do anything, right? Like he could literally go scoreless and he would not care a single bit as long as the team wins. That's the type of players we need to emphasize in building our culture with, right?
I agree. Players who play two-way, players who play for winning and not stats, players who show up in the playoffs every freaking time OG Anunoby has raised
Yeah,
his.
he's always showing up in the playoffs. That's like that's what we need. Like not players that just fade away. And also it's like it also just solves everything. Like we could trade Fred, right? Like even that the other as much as I don't like DeAndre Ayton, like
Mhm.
at this point every day, my thinking is just fading on that. Like you know the Siakam for like the DeAndre Ayton, Cam Johnson 2 picks. The media was like I don't know, like they were like saying something like my mind is like kind of like evaluating that every single day now just because I want to like I honestly want Pascal and Fred just like either silent bench or just off the team just so I can see the potential of what a team run with Scotty Barnes, OG, like as the collective leaders of this team and whatever we get back, like
Mm.
all the other players and see I just want to see how the entire team focuses and leads upon winning, a winning culture, right? And I feel
Yeah.
like Pascal, like I don't know why, like his defense has just faded. Like I've been looking at the games, just like as you've been stating, like more recently now. As you're right, you're completely right about that. Like his defense, and I see Fred's picked it up a little bit, but it's like he's it's just unfortunate that he's too short. Like a Fred, like 6'6" Fred would be an amazing point guard for a team, but he's just unfortunately too short. And Pascal, like his defense is just not there anymore. And I feel like that's
Yeah.
really hurting us right? As a culture and organization, when we have those two top guys that are just not good at defense, right, compared to everyone else.
I think it's just, it's like the leadership element, right? When you talk about selfless leaders, right? Look at John Morant. John Morant is a great teammate, right? Like he's an awesome teammate. Like you see it in his vibe. You see it in the fact that he gave up his most improved player award to Desmond Bane. Like selfless guys like that nurture growth underneath them. Tim Duncan, we saw it with Tim Duncan, right? I see Scotty and OG like that, right? Like I see these guys as, and I'm possibly wrong because I've never seen them lead an NBA team, but I'm just basing it on the 20 plus years of watching guys lead teams and seeing which type of personalities and which type of players do well in that role and which type don't. I saw that with Kyle very early. I saw that with DeMar really early. I saw that with Tim Duncan, I see that with Kevin Durant as well, even though he takes a lot of crap from the media, right? That's not something I ever really saw in Carmelo Anthony, right? There's certain guys that just don't lead well. They're not about other people. They don't care about other people enough to lead other people. You have to care about people to lead them. You have to. You can't just, you have to genuinely, want well for others, even at the expense of yourself. And that sometimes means that to help your team in the playoffs, you're going to sit a game that you could probably play right now. It means that to save yourself for winning time when your less talented teammates are going to struggle, it means you might start the game out a little bit slower in terms of like picking up your pace, because you know that your team's going to need you in the fourth quarter when superstars are generally needed. But you're going to probably waste a lot of effort beating up on Detroit or beating up on, the Houston Rockets and trying to put up 50 against these teams to pad your stats if you don't care about winning. I know when a player cares about winning, and I know when a player cares about stats, genuinely with about 95% accuracy, I can tell you. And I can tell you that teams with stars who care about stats tend to be really bad. Michael Jordan cared about winning.
Like, the thing is, like, Fred and Pascal, I don't want to make this as like kind of like this the problem or anything, but they've already been into that environment where they've won the championship. They've been key pieces to that team. So I don't feel like that drive for them to be specifically leaders, even though you could say they have the championship experience stuff. I feel like they're more focused. Obviously, it's more obvious that they're focused on their next contract more than nurturing the guys behind them to join them to make another run at it, right? As like Masai said himself, he wants to see another championship. He says, playing for what, right? He doesn't want to just be mediocre. He doesn't want just to test the waters. He wants to build an entire new core or just build with pieces that he had left over and go for it again, go strike again, right? Now, I don't see that type of mentality from Pascal and Fred for those in that position to be leading that type of mentality, to be strike again. I don't see that aggressiveness and that like challenge to get all the guys up to speed, whoever they have with them, show them experience, explain them everything, right? Membership experience, and just quickly and strike again and go for it at like Masai's rate. I see them more like cruising. They've been off the championship and they're just going for their own aspirations. Top 5 MVP, like he said himself, he wants to be top 5 player. Get the next contract. Fred wants more money.
I don't really have a problem with a guy wanting to be a top 5 player. I just have an issue with if he has to hijack the offense to prove that he's a top 5 player or be seen as one. I think that's going to bother me. I think someone earlier, I hope I didn't misunderstand, they said that maybe Siakam knew he wasn't going to be an all-star and that's why he's been a little bit bummed the last 2 games. I don't think that's true. I think genuinely these names are kept under wraps until very close to when they're announced. I think the vote just happened a few days ago, so it's very difficult to understand how he would have known that so long in advance. But I will say that it would be very interesting to see what he does tomorrow against Houston.
Also a very interesting fact. I think I heard another caller say this, but they're completely correct when they said this about Pascal. Pascal has to work so much harder to get every single point that he has, right? It's like you can see it in the game.
I said it.
See his tiredness.
I said that.
Right? Oh, you said that? Okay.
Yeah.
He just works so much harder than just most players that would be in this MVP caliber like area, right? He has to just work so much harder. I feel like just to get those individual points, and it's so noticeable, especially on the defense end afterwards. And it's like that's like the complete like glaring signs of like what I see from Bobby Masai. Like I don't want them to trade OG. I really want OG to be a part of our future, OG, Precious, Scotty going into the future, getting pieces back from Fred and Pascal. That would solve everything, and then also opens OG up to whatever opportunities he's missing out on, or like whatever movement. He'll be that top core piece, right? I think that's what he's really feeling that he's missing. That's why he's contemplating,
Yeah.
maybe a different area I need to go to and stuff, right?
All right.
Like,
Well, thanks a lot for calling in, Jace. I really appreciate it. We're gonna move on to the next caller, but I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and
also,
I really do
I have
hope.
one more thing, if I can quickly tell you.
Sure.
What do you think about so if we had a hypothetical Fred VanVleet package, right? What do you think if this would be fair, like, or this would be good for the team, that we do Fred VanVleet for like Jalen Suggs and like an Isaac or Bamba package with that? Because I feel like Suggs, I'm pretty sure Suggs and Barnes have been playing like in their high school or like college. Like they were on the
They
same
played
team
on
or
Team
something.
USA together.
Yeah, they play together, right? So I feel like if we do trade VanVleet to the Magic, I strongly believe that we should be getting like a Suggs back, just because that chemistry was already there. And I feel like the biggest issue with this team is chemistry right now.
Yeah.
And the vibe
Okay,
is
Jace,
off.
I really have to move on to the next caller,
right.
buddy. I really do.
Okay.
You said it was going to be quick. This is not quick.
Sorry, okay.
So, yeah, we've talked about the Suggs, Isaac for Fred trade before on this show,
Okay.
and I am for it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. See you, man.
See you.
Cheers. All right. Let's get on to your goat. Let's get the Detroit perspective. Your goat, what's up?
What's up, Grant? How are you doing?
I'm good.
That's good. So, I have a question. So there's this one player. His name is he plays in the Pistons. His name is Bojan. That a lot
It's
of
Bojan.
teams. Yeah, Bojan. My bad. That a lot of teams want to trade for, including me. I want the Pistons to trade Bojan away. A lot of.
Why do you
Detroit
want
fans.
why do you want them to trade him away? He's one of your best players.
Well, the reason is the Pistons signed him to an extension with the expectation that in the next year or so we're going to be not contenders but be in the playoffs, which I mainly disagree on.
Okay.
And his contract is kind of like, I don't know, I think I like Bojan, but the problem I have is we sign him so he can help us when we're in a playoff position,
Cool.
which I don't think so.
I'm going to tell you, this isn't a Pistons podcast, so we're going to keep this to Raptors ball. Even if you're going to talk about a Pistons player, you're going to redirect it back to Raptors ball because we have 246 people, and I tell you 245 of them don't watch the Pistons. So, just keeping it 100, what do you want to trade Bojan for?
For the Raptors, I mean,
or did you just come on here to tell me that you want to trade Bojan Bogdanovic?
I like Precious. I would like Precious.
You can't have Precious. What else do you want?
I mean, I would like to hear your perspective. I would like to hear a player that you would like to trade for Bojan.
I don't want to trade for Bojan Bogdanovic because Bojan Bogdanovic helps me win, and I'm trying to lose. If I could trade anything for him, like if there was an actual trade package that I could think of, if the Raptor season was going completely differently, I would offer you a 2025 protected first with Thaddeus Young and Otto and Kem, something like that. And then you could waive and stretch them, and basically you'd be giving them up for a pick, something like that. But apart from that, I don't really see the value upside here. He's taken a step back on defense, and even though he's a really smart guy and he's a really good shooter, and I'd probably like see him as like doing like a lot of stuff that Otto was supposed to do for us this year as a shooter. I just don't see how you're supposed to tank with a guy that good on
Do
your
you
team.
think he fits Scotty Barnes?
Absolutely, yes, I do. But unfortunately, he doesn't fit Scotty Barnes' timeline. Scotty's 21, Bojan's 34. And even though I think he'll be serviceable until he's 36, I think his days of being like a starter might be over and starting next year. So you guys, if you're not trading him, might get stuck holding the bag for that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But I appreciate your insight on this. I really am looking forward to what we're gonna do on the trade deadline. Not to get into too much Pistons talk, but appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. Thanks
All
for
right.
calling in. As always. Cheers. Alrighty. Okay. Okay, and finally we're going to the house, and then after that I'm gonna take you through 10 players that I think some of which you may not be looking at that I think the Raptors should trade for, and then we're going to call it a night. The House, what's up? Thanks for waiting, man.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on. I'm actually pretty new. I actually stumbled across you, I think, through one of the Raptors Digest podcasts or videos.
Okay. It was the one last year about Gary's defense?
Yeah. And then started
believe it or
watching
not, that's very close to when our channel even got off the ground. So
Okay, really?
yeah, you're not that new to us.
Yeah.
We're new to you in a weird way. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I saw you then, and then I, for whatever reason, hadn't seen you since, I guess, the beginning of the season, so started following you then. And definitely really appreciate your perspective. It's kind of opened up my understanding of like the Raptors and basketball in general.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, no, I want to come and talk just because, it's an interesting time. I wish the Raptors weren't in the position we're currently in, but
What position would you like them to be in?
Well, I'd love them to be contenders.
Okay.
I think at the beginning of the season there was a lot of optimism. I don't know if I saw them being.
I felt a little bit of it, but then I saw the preseason and I started listening to Fred and Pascal talk.
Yeah.
And a lot of that optimism weaned away very quickly.
Yeah.
When Pascal Siakam started talking about him being a top 5 player, Fred VanVleet said, "Oh, I don't know how this off-ball thing's gonna work." I'm like, man, if these two are in charge of your locker room and they feel this way about what they're being asked to do, you're screwed. And that's when I went on my little, tirades about them. And, I don't know, told you so? I don't know. Is it too early to say told you so? Can they still turn it around? I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks because the talent is there for, I don't want to say a contender, but if Otto was healthy, which is big if, and this team was optimized correctly and Scotty had grown, there's a lot of ifs. I'm introducing so many ifs into this equation, but
yeah.
If Thaddeus Young had not fallen off a cliff defensively, if Fred VanVleet could have started better, if Pascal could have paced himself a little bit more, if Nurse and the coaching staff could come up with more creative offense. There's so many ifs, and all the ifs that I had questions about in the beginning, they've all turned out negative. Almost all of them.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, no, I think it's all the pieces are there of what could be great, but it's just it hasn't gone our way.
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point, the writing seems to be on the walls. I think we need to do something going forward. We can't pay everybody. We're in a unique position where we have so many great assets, and unfortunately, I think it's going to be, we got to get rid of someone.
Okay, so here's a question: how great are our assets? Let's remove OG and Scotty from the equation. How great are our assets? Right? I don't think our future firsts are that great. The reason I say that is because we're a highly competent organization with a track record for scouting well, trading well, and managing well. And so, whereas a lot of teams could probably trade a 2027 first round pick, and the other team might get really excited about what that might become, with a Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster steered ship, a 2027 first round pick is almost always going to have an expected value of a mid-20s pick or an early 20s pick, right? Which means that if you wanted to upgrade right now and say package a Fred with a 2027 for a significant upgrade at point guard or something like that, you probably couldn't even get much value for that 2027 first round pick. You don't have anyone else's first round picks, which, kind of sucks when you're this bad. It's great that you have your own picks, thank God, because there are a lot of teams out there that suck right now and don't have their own picks, like the Lakers. But to not have that boatload of assets, future assets, that New Orleans, Utah, similarly placed teams, by the way, that are doing a little bit better than us in the standings, that are younger than us. It's sort of weird, right? But you go beyond Scotty and OG, what do you really have in terms of assets? We just found out that Gary Trent Jr., our 24-year-old and at that time 23-year-old, third usage, third points per game leader, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's OG. It's close. It's between him and OG. He's worth a late first. What's that really like? Are we kidding? That's like Patrick Beverley value, right?
Yeah.
That's like Dennis Schroeder value. That's how people see your up and coming, blossoming isolation score. Pascal Siakam plus 3 firsts and fillers didn't get it done for a 34-year-old Kevin Durant. Devin Booker plus that would have gotten it done if they could have traded Devin Booker, probably. Bam Adebayo and 3 first-round picks probably would have gotten it done. I was just talking to a Memphis fan the other day, and I was like, would you guys trade Jaren Jackson Jr. for Pascal? No. Would you trade Desmond Bane for Pascal? No. Would you trade Ja Morant? Obviously no. If the Memphis fucking Grizzlies have 3 players that they wouldn't trade for your best player, what are your assets really worth?
Yeah.
So I think I have to challenge the idea of what are our assets really worth. So I guess that's my question to you. So it's a bit of a loaded question, but I think it's worth thinking out.
No, it's fair. And I think even earlier you discussed like Pascal's value has really kind of declined over the last month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough there. Like the big asset I think is obviously OG at this time. That's someone I don't want to get rid of. I would not want to watch OG leave in a trade.
Right.
But he is probably our best asset at this point.
Apart from Scotty, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's so weird because all the arguments around. Do you see the hilarity, the slight hilarity in the arguments around trading for OG?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
He's your best asset, and so you should trade him. Imagine if the Memphis Grizzlies woke up tomorrow and said, let's trade our best asset. Or what if New Orleans Pelicans decided, hey, let's trade Zion because he's our best asset. Well, by far, he's your best asset. But why would you trade him? He's really good. He's really young. And he's under team control for a while. Why the fuck would you trade him? OG is your best asset for a reason. Because he is the type of player that every single team wants. Everyone around the league loves him. All the players love him. And he fits seamlessly. He's drama-free. He's error-free. He is a really good player. He's the type of player that actually impacts winning. I feel like I'm speaking into like, and it's weird how many people don't agree with that. It's weird how many people are just jumping to you can get so much for him. There's a reason you can get so much for him. He's a 25-year-old who's underpaid and who's deserving of, it's like the DeJounte Murray thing, like DeJounte Murray, like, oh, you got 3 first-round picks for him. It's like, yeah, it's like this DeJounte Murray and OG Anunoby, like that's a similar conversation. DeJounte Murray is widely considered the second best player on the Atlanta Hawks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was an all-star last year. That's the OG comparable. All year, we've heard comparisons of Jaylen Brown and OG Anunoby. That's an all-star. That's a 25-year-old who, under a different circumstance, probably was an all-star this year. Yeah. And I'll tell you, coaches love him. So if he was just playing even reasonably well on this team, I'll tell you right now, he probably would have made the All-Star team. And I feel bad for him because it feels like Pascal coming back kind of screwed him out of an All-Star berth because he probably would have made it. And it just, I don't know. It's just annoying. I for his sake, if he really wants out, I bless it. Be happy, OG. But if there's something we can do to salvage the situation, either that means, changing the pecking order, trading someone who's in his way, I'd do that before I trade him any day.
Yeah, and I think I almost agree. You said this earlier about, people felt this way about Scotty, where it was like they didn't appreciate him. Similar kind of to OG right now. But at the same time, I'll say that, but there's no, if I saw OG get traded, I'd be devastated. He's the one of those guys.
I would be too. But if he was going to Portland, I would just be happy for him. He gets to play with a real superstar who's not a selfish, stat chasing me first player. I'd be happy for him. If he gets traded to Atlanta, I'll be sad for him.
Yeah, on the personal level, as a human to human, I think whatever's best for him. But as a Raptors fan, he's just I could see him championship team, small forward on championship team, right? So
yeah. So someone said Lux here said you said the other day OG would never be an all-star. Now he could have been one if Pascal never came back, bruh. Please find the time-stamped place, and I will apologize for this, but I don't believe that I've ever said that OG would never be an all-star, nor that I've ever said. I legitimately felt like he was the most worthy player on this team for an all-star berth about a month ago, and then the last month happened and he didn't play that well. His numbers dipped, his usage dipped, his shooting dipped, whatever. But I don't think I said that. So if you think that I said that, please tell me where I said that, and I would like to see it. So if you're gonna say I said something, I just want to know where you heard it, because it's not cool to just tell me that I said something and act like it's a direct quote. I don't think that I said that, and if I did say that, I apologize. I definitely did not believe that. All right, continuing on. The house. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, maybe just one more thing. I'll make it quick.
Sure.
And I'm sorry if you already maybe said this, but just at this point? Like, what's your perspective? Like, what do you think is a realistic move, and what is something you would like to see the Raptors do at this point in time?
I don't know who the Siakam suitors are out there. I've heard Dallas. I don't really like much on their roster. I could see Memphis, but I don't know how you trade for him without taking back like one of the players that they do not want to get rid of. New Orleans, again, same thing. Is the problem with Siakam is the complicating problem is that he just makes so much money.
Yeah.
So the deal that I could see for Siakam, and this might be like really out there, and I don't think I've ever heard this presented anywhere else. Do you realize that Miles Turner just recently got a renegotiation on his contract? Did you hear about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So to anyone out there who doesn't understand how that works, do you understand how that works?
You know what? I'm probably no. Short answer, no.
Okay. So Miles Turner was making a certain amount of money. The Indiana Pacers were significantly under the cap. And so when you're a team under the cap, you have certain options that are available to you. One of them includes outright signing a player to, because when you're under the cap, you can sign players for up till the cap. There was the second option of trading for a player while giving up very little back. You can create a trade exception that way. And then the third thing they could do is with any player who had a 4-year contract and was in the final year of that contract, they could renegotiate up. So what they did was a you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours type of deal for Miles Turner, where they upped his salary for this year with no consequence, while agreeing with him to extend his contract, I believe, by 2 or 3 years. And it's extended at a very reasonable deal. I think it's like 21 million, 20 million, and it's on a decline. So I would like to see a deal, and I'm very curious how this would work. Pascal Siakam for Miles Turner, who, by the way, now is making as much as Pascal Siakam. They have almost the exact same cap hit. And I would like to see a first and Andrew Nembhard come back in that deal. Nembhard would be the backup point guard that you've wanted all season. Turner would be the shot blocking center you've wanted all season, who shoots threes. And a future first would be a future asset that you can potentially package with something else. Yeah. So that's trade number one. And I think it's a really smart trade that's fair. And I think Indiana might actually do it because, number one, they obviously weren't that super sold on Miles Turner anyway. Well, I mean, that's maybe jumping to a conclusion that I can't verify, but it feels like they haven't been super sold on him. They were trying to trade either him or Domantas Sabonis for the better part of 2 years. So it doesn't feel like they're crazy sold on him.
Yeah, I'm sorry to just cut in and
sure.
I'm taking up more time here. I'm just curious because it seems like, everyone's saying, oh, now that they've signed, done this with Turner, there's no chance that they're going to sign him. So you're saying that maybe this is even a move to position them to be able to do that, or
this is actually it's a great way to take back a bigger contract, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, it actually makes him a much sweeter asset. If you think about it from the perspective of the team ingesting him, now you have no risk that he can walk in free agency. So you actually don't get Miles Turner as a rental. If anything, this is by far the greatest thing they could have done to boost his trade value because, number one, you can now take back a max player for him, right? The other team is getting an extra benefit because they're getting a lower cap hit for next year. So if you're the Toronto Raptors, you get Miles Turner for this year at $34 million. But next year and the year after, he goes down to 21 and 20 million, at which point he's an absolute steal. Fair. And in the year, especially if you expect to be competitive next year, I mean, imagine having a starting center as good as Miles Turner for $20 million in 2024. That's crazy. That's a crazy value. Moses Scott says we can do better, Rob. I mean, that's your opinion. I don't think we can do that much better. A first-round pick from a middling team. I mean, Indiana Pacers, even with Tyrese Halliburton and Ben Mathurin, are not expected to be like a top 3 team in the East. So at best, you might get like a top 10 pick. At worst, I don't know. I mean, maybe Indiana's pick this year as well. I don't know. Maybe something like that. I feel like there's a gap, and Indiana would see that between Siakam and Turner. Like a significant gap where Siakam's just much better. And I'm curious to know if they would give up Nembhard plus their first this year for that gap. The other way I would look at it is a similar thought, but expanding it Siakam for Turner and Ben Mathurin, and then you're the one maybe giving up a 2025 first, because Ben's just like a really talented player. So I would look at it something like that. Yeah. So that's where I think that's a realistic thing I would look at. I mean, Siakam plus Tyrese, that's a really good 1-2 punch, man, for Indiana. Like, I would be all over that if I was them. They have shooters. They have the perfect team to put Siakam on. And I think Turner is just a really great big to pair with Scotty. And Scotty would find him open all the time. It's Scotty has a lot in common with Tyrese Halliburton. A lot. And there's a reason why Miles Turner has been just so good this year with Tyrese Halliburton. It's just, yeah. So I don't know. All of this is contingent on the Indiana Pacers being willing and able to move off of Miles Turner. And number two, their interest in Pascal Siakam. And you know what? Every team has their own evaluation process. Someone said, is Turner trade eligible? I believe he is. Yes, I believe he is trade eligible. There are certain guys who've signed extensions for next year that have poison pill contracts. I don't believe Turner is one of them. So yeah, we'll get. I'm going to get into that more in the next part of the show. All right, Thanks a lot for calling in the house. This is your first time calling in, right?
Yeah, it is.
Thanks for calling in, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Take
Cheers.
care.
Thanks. Sorry, there's a ha in me. There was like, oh man, a call where I wasn't super rude to the guest. Thank you so much. To address that briefly, I've thought about it. Like, I've thought about it a lot, I've thought about, the previous, I think 2 shows where it's kind of gotten off the rails, for one particular guest. And I'm thinking about it now as I'm just thinking about, like, do I need to be nicer to people? I got to be honest. I'm doing this my way. It doesn't mean that I can't get better. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to take notes, but I got to do it my way. And that's not me being, maybe that's me being just ruthlessly stubborn. But if I can't do this as myself, then I'm not doing this. So I'm sorry that some people are going to at times find, that I have an attitude or that I'm rude or whatever, but I'm just going to be myself. I can't be anybody else. I don't want to be anybody else. I like myself. You don't like me? That's okay. That's cool. I don't like everybody. I feel like I'm about to pull a Joakim Noah, when he was talking about Cleveland, where he was talking how he got booed in Cleveland, and he's like, it's okay, I have my friends. I feel the same way. I think I like who I am. I think I tell it straight. Yeah, there's certain people who are going to annoy me and piss me off, and I'll try to handle the situations better as I go along, but I'm never going to kiss your ass or, guys, I'm not Canadian. I think like maybe that doesn't show, but I didn't grow up here. Like, I grew up here after a point, but I didn't come up here. I came up in very blunt societies in cities where people just say it how it is, and that's just how I've always been. And if you want the truth, I've been like that since I was 17 years old, 18 years old. I didn't care who you were. Or, I remember, that's a story for another time, but I remember telling a very, very big politician that I was at a dinner with when I was 17. There was like a gathering of dinner, and I was such a, arrogant kid, and I thought I knew everything, and I was always going back and forth with my teachers, and I don't know, you can probably tell, you'd be like, Rob, we didn't need that information about you. We knew that about you. Okay. And the truth is, like, I'm just sitting there at this dinner table, and it's full of these like really rich Democrats, and I'm just going back and forth like with this guy about climate change and how the city needs to do more, and I'm talking like with this arrogance and conviction of a guy who actually knows what the fuck I'm talking about, or not someone who just watched Day After Tomorrow and is just basing everything that I'm saying on like 2 articles that I read. But I've just always been that way. I hope that, as I said, I hope I can be better. I hope that, me having an attitude or me, being a little rude sometimes is not triggering to anybody. And I kind of got worried yesterday when I looked at the chat and someone said it makes me nervous when Rob gets upset. But yeah, if you're going to continue watching the show, you're going to occasionally see me lose my patience with some people. I can try to be nicer about it, but I'm not just going to sit and endure someone lying to my face about something stupid or saying something that's just obviously wrong. Like, if you want to talk about something, we can debate it, but we're not going to I'm not just going to be like, okay, well, all opinions are equal. All opinions are not equal. Whoever told you that is just capping. They're not equal. There are some opinions that are very well researched, and some opinions that are absolutely just horseshit. Vince, hold tight, buddy. I'm gonna get to you. I'm just gonna flash 10 trade targets. Okay, 10 trade targets that I think that the Raptors should go after, and these are just players to become aware of. I think for everyone in this chat, if you haven't been aware of them, I'll talk you through, and we're gonna go through these very quickly. Hiam Dirks, yeah, you can be a bit nicer, but it's all good. It's entertaining. You know what it is? It's like when I'm in a good mood, sometimes those like rude moments can be funny. And when I'm not in a good mood coming into the chat, maybe I'm over caffeinated, underslept, they're not funny. They're just cringe. I get it. Artie Lange saying, I think he should be meaner. That's funny. All right. Okay, let's get to these. All right, so I have done my homework, and here are 10 players that I like for this team. Now, as always, when I'm flashing these slides, I'm not going to be able to see the comments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flash a slide, and I'm going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited you are about that player, okay? 10 would be Luka Doncic, okay? And let's say 3 would be Quentin Grimes, just to take one more shot at Quentin Grimes while I can. So that's kind of the barometer. And 1 would be like, I don't know, Kem Birch, okay? Like if Kem Birch played for another team, like that level. Give me an idea of how excited you are about these names as I bring them up. Okay, let's play this game and keep this lively, and we'll try to wrap this chat up by, I don't know, 1:30 a.m. maybe. But you know me, it's not going to happen. All right, the first name that I have to bring to you is Deni Avdija. Give me a 1 to 10 on what you think about Deni Avdija. Joshua Avery says 1. Really? For real? Okay. Alexander B, 7. Paul B, never heard of him. 1. 5. Okay. 6. We got 6. We got 7. Okay. Guys, I said Quentin Grimes was a 3, so are we more excited about this, or are we just gravitating towards 5? Smock Sock says, who? Mike James, that's who. Kuato from Mars, 7. So, I mean, the upside of Deni is pretty simple, right? He's a really good defender, and I think he's a really smart player. Not that much on offense that you're going to get from him, but he's young. He's young. He fits into your vision of 6'9". He has decent size. He's not like got this crazy plus wingspan, but I think he uses his feet. He moves his feet really well. He's a 90th percentile defender, or borderline 90th percentile defender. He has been all year. I think his free throw rate, he gets to the line a bit. He's portable, and he's a good passer. In a lot of ways, I know it doesn't seem like it, but Deni Avdija and Scotty Barnes have a lot in common. And the difference is really that Deni just plays behind a lot of guys, and you could argue maybe he should play over Kyle Kuzma, and now that they moved Rui Hachimura, maybe they don't want to get rid of him, but I like him. I think he's really good. So that's where I'm at on him. Next up, Daniel Gafford. Also from the Sweetness says, can he shoot? I suggest you Google that, my friend. I'll give you his splits right now. So Deni Avdija, let's check his raw stats. So he is a 28% three-point shooter. So that's not going to excite anybody. I get that. He has been pretty much career 31 to 30, 29. So he's not a great three-point shooter. His free throw percentage has improved since he was a rookie, but he is only 22 years old. And I still see like 22-year-olds who are that good. And again, because he plays on the Wizards, and the Wizards haven't been good for most of his time there, I think he's a little bit underrated in terms of league value, but I think he's one of those. Okay, so not people aren't super excited about Daniel Gafford. I think he's another two-way prospect. I think he offers a little bit for this team. Now we're going to look at a couple of Pelicans on a scale of 1 to 10. How excited are you about Trey Murphy III? Now, I want to caution that both Trey Murphy and the next player that I'm talking about, I have mentioned at least 40 times already, so this is not going to be new, but how excited are you about Trey Murphy III? The perk of Trey Murphy III is he's a so-so defender, above average, but he's a lights-out shooter, and he's on a rookie contract. And I think if you make a trade with the Pelicans for either OG, Pascal, or Fred, all of whom seem to be in play with the Pelicans sliding down, I think this guy has to be coming back. I think he's a great fit with Scotty. I think he's just such a dream fit. Jason Opong says 100. Wow, 8.5. Okay, so Raptors management, if you are paying attention to this, Raptor fans, Alex C says 10, 9.1, 10. Okay. All right, hold on to your butts for the next one. How excited are you about Dyson Daniels, a rookie making $5-ish million on team control for 7 years? Already one of, in my opinion, one of the 20-ish, 25-ish best defenders in the NBA already. Easily one of the best perimeter defenders. And yeah. And by the way, guys, like to those saying 10, I said 10 was like Luka. Guys, are you as excited about Trey Murphy III as Luka? Come on, keep these real. Everyone just goes 10, 5, or 2. Like, come on. I promise you, every single person I'm going to mention, no one's like 1. But, well, I mean, now that you've gone for 10 for Trey Murphy, it almost feels disingenuous to say 7 for Dyson. But all right, I get where you're coming from. All right. Now we're going to bring up some players that we haven't talked about on this channel. Hold on, let me make sure. Let me talk about one more guy that I have talked about before, Landry Shamet. When I say movement shooters, the Raptors really need movement shooters around Scotty Barnes. This is the guy I'm talking about. The Raptors have been rumored to be in trade talks with Phoenix. I would want this guy back in any trade. He's on a really good team-friendly contract. He has a team option for 2025, 2026, and he's on a 4-year, $42 million contract, which means that very soon he will be making less than a mid-level exception player, despite being under 30 years old. I really like him. I think he's a high efficiency, low usage guy. His shot quality is amazing. He hasn't shot incredibly well this year, but his shot diet and he's just such a smart player. So how are we feeling about Landry Shamet? 2, 6, not good, not bad, better than Flynn. Okay, guys, not feeling Landry Shamet. I get it. He can shoot it. Nice one. Yeah, I mean, I like him. Okay. Now let's talk about we talked about 5 players. Now let's talk about five players that we haven't talked about on this show, and let's start with the probably most known commodity here, which is Wendell Carter Jr. from the Orlando Magic. Now we've talked about Jalen Suggs and we talked about Jonathan Isaac, but what if the Magic were to give up someone that they prioritize a little bit more in Wendell Carter? I like him. I got to be honest, I like him. So how are we feeling about Wendell Carter? 9, 8, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Feeling it. Guys are excited. All right. Kuato from Mars. All right. Okay, 7.5. We got a 5. We got a 7. All right. Appreciate the responses, guys. It's giving me a good idea of where we are on certain players. Okay, next up, John Conchar. Definitely a name that has never been uttered on this channel, but someone who's really sticking out to me analytically as a guy who... Jonathan McLean, I wish there was a way for YouTube to average all of these. I mean, yeah, probably. Community polls. Okay, John Conchar. People are like, what the hell is a John Conchar? Well... I think he's a very good player who does a lot. Never heard of him. 3, 4, don't know him. Teacher Mike, someone mentioned Conchar yesterday. Did they? Who? 5.9. Vince says that was me. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. It's so funny how everyone calls Vince the music guy. Even my girlfriend yesterday was like, "Is that the guy with the instruments?" I'm like, "Why is Vince's background so prevalent and obvious to everybody?" That's so funny. Is he a shooter? Let's check his stats here. Hang on a sec. I'll give you his exact stats. Here we go. So, Contract shoots above league average from 3. His career is well above league average. So, yes, he is a shooter, and he's a very good free throw shooter. He's a sniper, really. In terms of attempts, so let's get to the per 100, because an average game has about 100 possessions, right? So, let's see. Per 100 possessions, he averages 6 attempts per game, and he's shooting 36.4%. So, it's a down year for him. Last year, played a ton of minutes last year for the Grizzlies, and he shot 41% from 3. He's deadly. He's a really good player there. He also, he's an excellent rebounder. Per 100 possessions, he is averaging 10 rebounds per game. He's 26 years old. I think he really fits in with Scotty, to be honest. So seems like a Fred type. I'd give it a 5. He's definitely not a Fred type. I'll tell you that. Okay. Now we're going to go to 3 very young players. Number 1, Usman Garuba from the Houston Rockets. Super wingspan, very active rim roller, really, really good defender. Like an overwhelmingly positive defender with all the tools in the world to be a first team all defense type of guy. Offense, completely limited at this point, really boxed in, not a shooter, gets to the line, crashes the glass. A lot of the stuff that you get from Achua, he's just, I gotta say, like impact wise, he's maybe not potential wise, but impact wise, he puts Achua to shame defensively. He would be like, yeah, he's like making OG level impact on defense, if not better, in limited minutes, granted, but he's really good. So how are we feeling about Usman Garuba? Someone saying Biz 2.0. I think he's better than that, buddy. 4.25 Usman who? I heard Rockets fans talking about him. Nice. 4 can't shoot. We've seen how that goes. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Pascal Siakam came in, can't shoot. Yes, like it can get better, is what I'm saying. 3, 7, 6.5. I like him for a lot of reasons, but number 1, I like him for his paint defense. The Raptors have just sucked in the paint. And someone saying Tari Eason, I don't think they're going to get rid of him. So you guys bring up Tari Eason once every chat. I'm telling you, I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I do like him too much. Alex says Pascal still can't shoot. I mean, he can shoot okay. Next up, Isaiah Joe. Another name that maybe a lot of people have not heard of, but a name that has just been absolutely jumping off the page to me, and is just a massive, massive reason why I think the OKC Thunder are as good as they are. I kind of thought a million times about putting him on this list because y'all saying 6 for Isaiah Joe? For real? 5? 7? All right. Okay. I mean, this is just, it's 7, 8, 4, 7. Great shooter. 6, 7, 7, 7, 8. Okay. So, fast facts about Isaiah Joe. Because I feel like, with teams that maybe most people don't watch, I think there's some prevalence of like people just don't realize how good these guys are. So Isaiah Joe shoots nearly 44% from 3. He would be your best shooter, and it's not even close. Like the Raptors currently don't have anyone who shoots 40% from 3. They barely have anyone who shoots 38% from 3. So he comes in immediately. He's 23 years old, so he's worth quite a bit. 46% from the field. Per 100 possessions, he averages 14 attempts. So he's one of the highest volume 3-point shooters in the league as well. Per volume. Okay. Defensive impact is fine. Again, his growth is off the charts. I actually legitimately debate whether he's a better long-term prospect than Josh Giddey. I'm not even kidding. Is he gettable though? Yeah, that's a good question. Look at his height though. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're gonna have a 6'3" guy, I mean, I'm kind of cool with one who has a 6'8" wingspan to max to make up for it, right? It's sort of why I was cool with having a guy like Jalen Suggs, right? Not in the draft, but I mean, in a trade, if he can rehab his value a little bit, is because it's still a plus size. Like if you play him with an upsized guard like Scotty, I think he's a great backcourt mate for Scotty Barnes. Scotty can obviously guard the 2, and then he can guard the 1. I think that would be good. And finally, a name that the Raptor fans should be familiar with because he's the son of a coach on our team currently, and also a guy who infamously beat us with a backdoor play, AJ Griffin. One of my favorite rookies, a lot of injury concerns coming out, but to have this guy under team control for 7 years, given how good, how incredible he's been on offense already, to be able to do that, I just think that he's the type of guy that you could easily plug in to Gary Trent Jr.'s spot and not lose any step. In fact, you get better. I think you'd be better with him. I think he's a better player than Gary Trent Jr. in a nutshell. And the difference here is, as an asset, he's so much better because he's like a mid-teens pick, right? So his salary is just insanely low for the next 4 years, and then you have him on a rookie extension. He makes $3.5 million a year. In terms of value for what he actually provides, I think that's great. So anyways, I wanted to talk about those players. We got an 8, 7. Yeah, 7. You have him under team control for 7 years because after he becomes... So when I say... Okay, so just to explain this before we get to Vince. Sorry, Vince, just hang tight for one more minute. When I say team control for 7 years, what I really mean is that when you sign a player to a rookie contract, like we just signed Scotty Barnes to a rookie contract, right? When that contract comes up, he'll become a restricted free agent, which means that you still have the right to sign him or match any offer that he gets. Of course, in the next contract after that, he'd become an unrestricted free agent, which usually happens after year 7, 8, or 9, depending on how many years the initial contract is extended. Some guys will never hit unrestricted free agency. I can tell you for a team like the Toronto Raptors, it's usually a little bit anxiety ridden for them to go into unrestricted free agency because typically they end up having to overpay because of all the taxes and all that stuff. It helps to have a guy enter restricted free agency because it gives you maximum control. So when I say you have this guy under team control for 7 years, that's what I mean. All right. Yeah. Also, may I just say, Trae Young did not make the All-Star team, and neither did DeJounte Murray, and we didn't even talk about that at any point. Trae Young, he hasn't been really good this year, but as a talent, it's hard for me to say he's not, at least offensively, he's not a better player than Siakam. So, okay, so it seems like the biggest response was pretty much Dyson Daniels, Trey Murphy. If I'm not correct, let me know in the chat if that's correct. So it seems like if Raptors management ends up seeing this by some happenstance, or one of you guys is just, at a bar and this comes on, or you turn this on, just know Raptor fans are very much for this New Orleans Pelicans stuff. Anyway, Vince, how's it going?
What up, dude?
What's up?
I love this thought exercise that you've got going on right now.
Yeah.
Yes, the young players, I'm all about it. One thing I'm trying to I would like for them, whoever they trade, whether it's if they can get rid of Pascal, if they can trade Pascal for value.
That was a Freudian slip, wasn't
it? A little. Or if they have to trade OG, I think I'm of the mindset where, of course you want to get a pick or two, but I'm of the mindset that you're giving up a supposed tent pole type player. You want to get a potential future tent pole in return, right? So of the guys you mentioned, I think I think in terms of tent poles, I feel like Dyson Daniels was maybe the only. Like you mentioned some good guys. Isaiah Joe he's pretty good, but I don't see these guys being tent poles in the league for a future. But Dyson Daniels, guys like Jalen Williams, I don't know. You didn't mention him from OKC.
I don't think they'd get rid of him. I think like it'd be really difficult for a team like that. Yeah. Okay. I could see that. Yeah. But would you make that
salary filler? Maybe.
It's like if you get back a player like Jalen Williams, who was just in the lottery, right, or even Dyson Daniels, right, who was also in the lottery, I think you run the risk, especially because like with Dyson, his numbers are a little bit low because of minutes and maybe his value is a little bit lower. Jalen Williams is just he's very. Okay, who do you think's worth more right now? Not to you, but like around the league, Jalen Williams or Dyson Daniels? I think it's pretty close, right?
I think Jalen has shown a bit more just because of the role on that team.
Right, and yeah, so like the thought of sports entertainment being about how do you sell it to your fan base. I think the Dyson Daniels hype has started in this community, but I don't see it transferring to like all other communities. I think there are some, pockets of Reddit that think, oh, this guy just can't play offense or whatever. But I like how, because the video breakdown that Leo and I did, that it's obvious to us, at least. I think there are quite a few players of the Dyson Daniels mold. The only thing that makes Dyson Daniels very much stand out is how young he is. Right. Relative to those players. Right. I mean, there are players who are flashing, like all league defensive potential, like Usman Garuba, right? But they just have no pathway to ever being like great offensive players. Daniels does, and Daniels is super young. So I think that's the difference. In terms of Jalen Williams, I didn't think that the Thunder would get rid of him. I thought they might be more willing to get rid of Isaiah Joe. But if you're going to trade, would you trade OG for Jalen Williams, like straight up? Like, I know you can't do it straight up, but I'm saying, like, if you could do it straight up, you would make that swap straight up?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Jalen can shoot. He can shoot a little bit. Him alongside Scotty, that's two very smart, good, like efficient. Well, Scotty's not an efficient shooter, but Jalen projects to be, and he's a smart player who knows how to pass and can dribble a little bit. Okay. It's like pretty Raptors-y. That would be a pretty Raptors-y move for sure.
Who else did you like apart from Dyson Daniels?
I mean, I don't even know if I'm projecting here, but I feel like if you can leverage teams that really want success immediately, could you get Keegan Murray for OG?
So here's the issue. Here's the issue that I have with both Jalen Williams and Keegan Murray is I don't think either one of them are great defenders.
Not yet, but that helps the tank as far as I'm concerned.
But I mean,
learn to play defense.
I guess maybe it's just this is maybe not a Raptors thing only. This is more of a me thing. I don't like bad defenders. I don't like negative defenders. If I'm building a team and I have a choice. And it's not one of those situations where I'm at the top of the draft and the best guy is just a guy who's a non-defender, but he projects to be a generational offensive talent, and I just have to live with it, like Luka Doncic. Obviously, I'm not going to pass up on Luka Doncic because he doesn't play defense. But I'm saying you have to be so fucking good on offense for me to overlook bad defense, and I don't think Jalen Williams is it. That's why I would rather Dyson Daniels, Usman Garuba, guys like that, where I'm like, I already know that they're going to be great defenders no matter what. So the floor of role player who plays 20 minutes a night and doesn't kill me is already established, right? Then I'll build up the offense from there. And I want, and if I'm going to build up the offense with a player, I want one skill, which is what you don't have with Malachi Flynn. He doesn't have one skill. He doesn't have one skill where he's like well above average at it. We thought it was shooting.
You don't think dropping 70 points in a Jamal Crawford crossover tournament is a mad skill?
No, I don't.
You can do
That's
that.
Funny. That's funny. No shade. I probably would score 5 points in that league. So I mean, congrats to Malachi Flynn for dropping 70 something. But for real, I had issues with Jalen Williams at the draft because I was like, could be a really good offensive player. Hasn't been so far, by the way. Hasn't been great offensively. He's been good-ish. He hasn't been great. I like Josh Giddey more than I like Jalen Williams, and I'm like, if I had to, yeah, I see why people like him. I do.
Right.
It's the game is very smooth. It's the
smooth game. It looks nice.
That's exactly
I
it.
think here
I call it the Cade effect. It's the Cade effect. It's very smooth, but it doesn't work.
Okay.
I'm not saying that he won't be a really good player. I'm just saying that if I'm ranking out the Thunder's prospects, I put Chet over him. I put Giddey over him. I put Shea over him, and I might even put Isaiah Joe over him.
I'm only talking like players Raptors could potentially get. They're not obviously trading Chet. They're not trading Giddey. They're not trading Shea. So I went to the next one down.
They should trade Giddey.
Oh yeah, you don't like him?
Same reason. Not a great defender. I don't like. Right. I told you like I mean maybe other teams feel differently about this, but I don't necessarily see why. It's a little bit redundant to have Giddey and Shea. It's not a great fit in my opinion.
Right. I think I'm a little bit shell shocked when it comes to these guys that we're getting that are like defense first. I feel like we've been doing that for years, and like defense first guys that we're teaching to play offense along the way.
It worked with you converted one of those guys, which is the 23rd overall pick in OG Anunoby, into what is today going to be a Lions share if you trade. You see what I mean? Once you establish the floor on defense, building up the offense is much easier, in my opinion. Which of the players that we've gotten do you feel that fit that mold that have backfired so far?
Yeah, no, nobody's like. I mean, nobody's.
Don't say Stanley Johnson. Don't say Stanley Johnson.
Yeah, right. Nobody's backfired, and everybody's backfired, and that's
funny.
That's evidenced by the fact that we can't win a fucking game this year, and we're like only 2 games ahead of like Orlando. You know, it just is. It's not. But
Orlando has been picking, but like I think some people need to relax on the losing stuff. This is the life cycle of NBA teams. This is also the consequence of elevating guys well above their pay grade, right? You can't, like, some people have accused me of trying to talk Scotty's greatness into existence. I've read that comment at least 15 times. It's been parroted across. They're like, man, this guy just keeps saying Scotty's a superstar so much he's gonna like he's gonna become one. Well, he's becoming one, and no, I didn't speak into existence. I just saw it. But I feel like they're doing something very similar with Fred and Pascal. They call them the leaders all the time. They call them like this great, like 1-2 punch. They're all stars, whatever. And the analytics might really like both guys, and they're very good players. Like both of them are, I think, top 40 players, top 45 players in the NBA, maybe top 50 players. I think both of them should start on really good teams. I don't think either one can carry an offensive load. I don't think either one of them should be a primary option. So that being said, it's like I've lost my train of thought, but the point is that I don't believe that you can speak things into existence like that.
Right.
I don't even know I don't even know what I was responding to.
Okay, you touched on something that reminded me of a thought I had earlier. In talking about the potential of trading Pascal versus OG.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember a couple of years back when Colin Sexton was killing it for the Cavs?
Yep.
And his numbers were fantastic across the board. I feel like he was averaging like 26 a game, something like that. Mm-hmm. Shooting efficiently, like 46, 48% from the field.
Cavs like were
pretty. Cavs were losing. Darius Garland was injured.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? They made the right move in moving Sexton and keeping Garland waiting in the wings because they knew he was the better player. Right?
He's a way better player. It's not even close.
Like way better. It's not even a conversation. Right? The same thing right now, I think, is kind of happening with Scotty and Pascal.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty's the obvious better talent. He was better in year 1 than Pascal was in year, I don't know, 3 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah, to just correct something that you said, it's 24 points per game. So to everyone out there, Colin Sexton, as a rookie, averaged 17 points per game. As a sophomore, as a 21-year-old, he averaged 21 points per game. And in his third year, at just the age of 22 years old,
Right.
on 47.5% from the field and 37% from three, which is better than what Siakam and VanVleet are doing right now, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He averaged 24 points per game, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. So I could make a very realistic case that based on just efficiency and scoring, that this guy was a more efficient first option than Pascal Siakam. And he just got dealt as a throw-in for Donovan
And
Mitchell.
not even starting for the Utah Jazz.
And he's not starting for the Utah Jazz. I mean, damn, like if there was ever a great example of why scoring empty stats doesn't mean shit, it is Colin Sexton.
That's right. So deal Pascal, man. Like
Country
like,
Comes says, can we get Colin Sexton for Fred? Why would you want to? That's the whole point. Look,
Yeah.
ball
I would rather
dominance.
Fred.
Yeah, me too. Like, Sexton was a boss and Utah scored. I mean, look, there's such a consequence of a guy having the ball. Like, you have to understand, like, every time a player touches the ball, there's a potential decision that is going to result from that. Actually, there's a necessary decision of that. Either it's going to result in a turnover because they over dribble, or they let the shot clock violate, or they forget to get up the court within 8 seconds. Sorry, Fred. Right? Number one. Number two, they're going to dribble it off someone's foot, or their own foot, or they're going to throw it off somebody else's foot. Sorry, Pascal. Or they're going to take a dumbass fadeaway three with plenty of time on the clock, early in the clock, sorry, Fred again. Or they're going to take a highly inefficient contested mid-range shot like Gary Trent Jr. I'm sorry, Gary Trent Jr. Or they're just going to pass within 2 seconds of touching the ball to the guy who's open, and that's going to be thank you, Scotty Barnes, right? Or they're going to get off. Flowing. Exactly, and it's like when you dominate the ball as a non-playmaker, like playmaking is so underrated. People think of playmaking as passing. It's not just passing. It's how do you create plays that benefit your team on offense. Very few players do it extremely well. And when I see great playmakers, like guys like Dyson Daniels, I mean, he may not score well, but he's a good playmaker. Playmaking projects well to scoring. I've always felt that way. Even if you never become a high volume shooter, seeing the floor well enough to pass the ball will eventually translate to being well enough to score the ball. Like a guy like Ben Simmons is a negative on the free throw line, doesn't take threes, but he's a great playmaker. And because he's a great playmaker, he can stay on the court because he's really smart. Draymond Green, same thing. Can't hit a layup to save his life. If it's contested, it's a miss. Can't hit threes. Still a great playmaker. Playmaking and defense are the two most valuable skills for me for role players. Beyond that,
and IQ.
Yeah. So once you have those as your building blocks, if you can expand out to isolation scoring, 3-point shooting, off-ball movement, you can work around all this other stuff. But playmaking in itself, sometimes you have off-ball playmakers where because they change their position on the 3-point line, they bring a defender with them. They're constantly moving. These are like chess pieces. Every offensive play is like a speed round of chess. Every single one. And these great playmakers are just like grandmasters. They're like grandmasters just guiding your little chess pieces around the board. And they're consistently like setting the right screen, finding little angles. And I just like players like Dyson Daniels, right? Jalen Williams is also a great playmaker. Like that's the one thing I like about him. But the defense is missing. So it's like what I'm looking for in every single thing. Like when I mentioned Denny Avdia, Dyson Daniels. Yeah. So if we could get Denny Avdia and Dyson Daniels in 2 separate trades, and then everything else, like build up some good things around, even Jonathan Isaac, just defensively. My God, if I ran this Raptor team for a day, it would look different tomorrow. It would look very different tomorrow. I'd be like on the phone with Orlando, Washington, New Orleans, set up a trade. I'll trade everybody but OG, Koloko, and Barnes. Get me those players on this team.
Right. Yeah, I think you got it right. You get super smart plays. Is the reason that like you put like Dirk and Jason Kidd together and boom, you beat the fucking LeBron Heatles.
Yeah.
Right?
How do you feel about Christian Wood?
I don't feel great about him personally.
Me neither. He doesn't help anybody. He only helps himself. He does, in my opinion, does not impact winning one iota. Again, another empty calories guy, man. I'm sorry, just another empty calories guy.
He gets
Another
some
guy.
stats for sure.
He does get the stats because he takes the fucking shots, right? But it's like these. Man, I remember watching a Houston game with him last year, and I was just baffled at how little he did for his teammates. It's like watching a less effective Pascal Siakam out there with way less playmaking skills.
Right.
The thing that really elevates Siakam in my mind last year was that he had all this, like, I don't want to say all defensive potential, but like really great, like good defender, not great defender, but good defender if he wants to dial in on a single play down the stretch. If you know what I mean, like sometimes it comes down to like in a fourth quarter you need one stop, and then it's not about like consistent motor because everyone's got a motor in that moment, and it's just about how fast can you move and how long are you and can you bother it. I feel like in those moments I trust Siakam, or I should trust Siakam. In theory, I should trust him. And then it's like the playmaking plus the defense. It's like Siakam should be my favorite fucking player.
Right.
He's not, but he should be.
In Siakam's defense, regarding his defense this year, he's definitely like he's just fucking dead by the end of the game. He's got to play so many minutes. It's just like
you think it's minutes too,
exhausted. Pardon?
You think it's minutes?
I think it's a combination of minutes, and then losing wears on you, and then the sort of lack of chemistry that keeps rearing its ugly head. I don't know. It's weird to say that they did put up 128 points last night, or 125, however many they scored, which it should be a good. That's a good. They got 27 more shots, for fuck's sake. They still lost the game.
I mean, he takes a lot of contact. He plays a ton of minutes. I do think, however,
he drives a lot.
He drives a lot, but he gets to the line. He's rewarded for that, right? I think where I draw the line is, number one, positional versatility. There's 3 guys who lead the league in positional versatility, which means that just the variance in how many different positions on the court they guard.
Are
Scotty's
Scotty and
one
OG
of them.
2 of those guys?
No, OG is not actually.
Okay.
Royce O'Neal for the Brooklyn Nets is one of them, and Scotty's the other. I believe those 2 guys are alone in that 100th percentile versatility rating. And Scotty's also the second on the Raptors and among the top, I think, 15 to 20 players in the league in terms of matchup difficulty on a nightly basis.
Right.
You add those 2 factors in, the fact that he's even holding water on defense is beyond crazy to me.
Totally.
Right, because his role is so hard. So he's working his ass off on defense against really good players. And obviously you and I can agree that Landry Shamet and Steph Curry are not equivalently, like they're not going to tax your body equivalent, like in terms of guarding them. And Fred VanVleet would know because he chased Steph around every single screen in the finals. But he did that for like 26 to 30 minutes a night. He didn't do that for 38 minutes a night. Siakam's getting a lot of rest on defense. His role allows that. On offense, I got to tell you, when he doesn't have the ball, he's also resting. He stands in the corner. He stands at the top. He gets these big breaks. And while he's taking those breaks at the top of the key or at the corner, not doing shit, or, just hanging out in the dunker spot, not doing anything, or, just kind of like floating up and down the court, Scotty's setting picks. Scotty's running hard. I'm sorry. I look at these teams. I look at this team play every single night, and OG's working harder. Scotty's working harder. They're both working harder on everything but scoring. And Siakam's working really hard on scoring. But he's also the one guy among these 3 guys that took a 10-game break. Right in the smack dab middle of the season so far.
True.
So I feel like when someone like Samson Folk brings up, these are numbers he played over 100 games, I'm like, are we just conveniently going to forget that he's missed half a season for like 2 years going into this? There's an entire shutdown. How many times has this happened with Siakam? How many times has he started a season out one way and ended it a completely different way? How many times are we going to go through an entire month and a half?
His level of variance is very big. That's for sure. Like between. I mean, he
oscillates between top 15 and top 60.
Right, that's true. I wonder if there are any guys. I feel like Julius Randle might sort of be the only comp, and he I think Randle made it to the All-Star team over him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what happens when you win. When you win
Yeah,
basketball. If the Raptors had the Knicks record and the Knicks had the Raptors record, I got to tell you, like right away, Siakam would be in and Randle would be out, and Knicks fans would be upset, and Raptor fans would be like, "Ha ha, I told you so." But I mean, like Randle is a part of those wins.
Siakam. I'd still rather Siakam over Randle all day.
Okay, here's a thought experiment. Just because we're into thought experiments, let's take Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson off the Knicks, and Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet off the Raptors. Which team wins? So it's basically RJ Barrett led.
RJ, Quentin Grimes,
Obi Toppin, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, Derrick Rose.
I think Raptors win.
Raptors win based on what? I mean, they are a deeper team. They have Evan Fournier too.
Oh, that's true.
But we would have Gary, Fred.
Scotty.
Sorry, we have Gary, Scotty, OG, Boucher, Precious, Otto in theory, Thad. Oh, you're right. We probably do win. Holy shit.
We got I mean, if Otto finds his toe.
Everyone's saying raps. Okay, so if we are to agree, I think this is a great thought experiment. So if we are to agree that the Raptors sans their top two guys are better than the Knicks sans their top two guys, then how do you explain the gap in the records between the Knicks and the Raptors? Because it's not a small gap, guys. It's a big gap.
Yeah, I think it's a chemistry. It's not like I think Pascal is kind of he's kind of pulling a Vince a little bit. I think he's doing it a little bit more subtly, I think. But he's pulling or maybe he's doing it differently. I shouldn't say more subtly. When Vince, quit on the team, we'll just use that even though it's not exactly accurate. But let's say when Vince wanted to be traded, he sort of just shut down the effort level. I don't think Pascal's doing that to an extent. I think he's just playing differently, playing a little bit more for himself, checking in and out of plays, not involving himself. And like you said, when he's off ball, he's not setting screens. He's not sprinting to set screens hard. He's just like being a little underwhelming. We'll say.
Chat, let me know. If you had to guess, I don't have the exact number, so I'll have to research this. If you had to guess how many screens Pascal Siakam sets per game, over or under 2 per game, take a guess. I'm just curious what the chat thinks there.
Going to be in Russ territory.
Yeah, I think the Vince thing. I remember watching Vince in that final season when he was here, and I would not conclude what he was doing as dogging it or taking plays off or whatever. I do see Pascal Siakam take plays off.
Right.
I do. He takes entire plays off. It's embarrassing. Like, I'm so glad I stopped doing the low light stuff, because over the last 3 weeks, if I was doing those low light things, oh my God, the level of hate.
As long as your live streams.
I mean, for real. Like, it is getting so bad. And I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like, my God, like, I mean, today when I did the NWO, the video, the TWO, the Tank World, did you see it?
I saw it. That was so good.
Are you a wrestling fan? You strike me as someone who may have watched wrestling back in the day.
I was a wrestling fan back in the day. In university, we had Monday Night Raws in the common room.
Nice. Did you ever watch WCW?
I guess there was a little bit of time where the crossover happened, but not so much. I wasn't a Diamond Dallas Page stan.
Okay, DDP, nice. So I just initially my thought was I was going to set it to all the missed layups and all the offensive dysfunction, and then just have like Tank World Order flashing all over. And I was like, man, that's too much heat.
It's
I'm
too
like,
much.
I don't mind the smoke, but I think that might be too much smoke even for this channel, because that, like, I mean, especially the timing of it, like fans up in arms about the losses. Siakam doesn't make the All-Star team. And then, Pensari Basketball releases a low light video. I'd be like, all right, let's just try to keep this funny and not as depressing as it could be, because
Right.
it's straight up like this offense is so weird to watch on a nightly basis. And Siakam's effort on defense has been
Right.
just pitiful on some nights. I'm surprised the analytics aren't putting him in the low 60s, early 50s as a defender. I think it's because he generally plays with really good defensive lineups around him. But him himself on defense,
Right.
you know, people bring up like, oh, he's like, he's usually one of the highest in terms of distance traveled. He's really great on contesting corner threes. Well, ask yourself the question: what is one of the worst things about the Raptors defense? The consistent giving up of corner threes. He's late
Right.
all the time. He's late all the
Right.
time. When he gets beat on a switch or beat on a screen, he usually is like really late to rotate. He cherry picks a lot. It's just, yeah, it's like, it's very weird to look at the analytics on him and then watch the game, and you're just
Right.
like, how is he this good on paper when
Right.
when what I'm watching is just so consistently bad.
Right.
I think he does a lot of things that like the analytics love. He gets to the line a lot. His passing has been good, but it's like even his passer rating, like he has a really high passer rating per the analytics. He's like one of the better passers in the NBA, like a top 30
Right.
passer in the NBA. I
Sure.
don't think he's a top 30 passer in the NBA. I think there are 30 guys I could easily point to that I'm like, if given the same role and opportunity. So I think that in a lot of ways, watching Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet shows me the weaknesses in analytics
Right.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The eye test wouldn't. Yeah, he wouldn't.
It's
point
just
to him
because you
being one of
see
the
how
best
they're
passers.
gaming it, right? Like a defensive rebound, for your total rebound percentage, your defensive rebound will always result in one rebound for you, right? But
Right.
how you're getting those rebounds, in what, like, it's not, there are certain teams that you watch where you're like, everything is happening equally. Like, guys, there's no one gaming for rebounds, there's no one gaming for assists, there's no one
Yeah,
like,
this team last year.
no, there's still some of that happening. Less,
Yeah.
but there was still some of it, I think. Like, but like, I'll talk to somebody and be like, when's the last time Pascal Siakam like really boxed out a guy for a rebound, right? And it's like
Yep.
it's happening less and less. He doesn't feel like that's his role. He's like, no, you peasants, Scotty, Coloco, Precious. No, you get it. And now it seems
Right.
like they're not just willing to let him grab it and go.
Right.
But it's like there's nothing in the analytics that I'm showing other than box plus minus that's going to show the value of boxing out but not grabbing the rebound, or
Right,
setting a
right.
screen but not getting the pass,
Right.
right? And all of those little things that guys do to help main guys score sometimes get uncredited, but hopefully, and of course I know that scouts and GMs and smart executives and good coaches, they do value those things. Like Steven Adams can't shoot, but man, does he set some great screens. And he's
And does
really
he ever
good in the
box
post.
out? It's
Right.
like, that dude's a brick wall.
Exactly. And I mean, like that extra, I don't know, quarter second of separation that he's going to create for his shooter is going to impact every player he plays with on the court by like
Totally.
2%. So it's like, how much better are you for the 28 minutes Steven Adams plays? Well, that's why we have box plus minus. But
Right.
nothing in his box score is going to show Steven Adams had like 12 screen assists today. You know,
Right.
there are all these small things on the basketball court that we don't glorify that we should. And what bothers me about this fan base is kind of weird, because for a hockey fan base that's all about tough-minded guys and, hard-nosed guys, they seem to really gravitate towards, the prima donnas who don't do the physical stuff. They're just like
I thi-
kind of after the box score shit.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think if Steven Adams was on this team, he would be beloved universally for sure.
Yes, he
we
would.
haven't had, Chuck Hayes, right? Like he hit that.
Charles
dude
Oakley,
had a little-
PJ Tucker. We've
Yeah.
had a couple of enforcers. Serge Ibaka was a makeshift enforcer
Yeah.
slash resident chef slash brawler.
It's
I
weird.
mean, there James
art
James
maker.
Johnson inspired the fear of the nation,
Yeah,
right? Because
sure.
he attended a Taekwondo camp once. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I joke. James
No,
Johnson,
he
please.
says he's a black belt something. Or
He
other.
is a
I know,
black
I know.
belt. He is a
Yeah,
black
yeah,
belt, and
yeah.
I just feel like people take that, like, because he's 6'7", 6'8", and he's a black belt. People are like, oh my god, this guy could kill anybody. I think it's sort of weird because, like, I think about guys that like Shaq, Like I've seen Shaq go at guys and just he's so bad. Like, did you see that punch at Brad Miller and how he just missed? Like, just because you're big,
Yeah.
just because you're big doesn't mean you can fight. Like I've seen Serge Ibaka throw him up. I'll tell you, that guy he would knock out some people for sure.
Yeah, he's thrown a few punches. He hasn't landed a few. Like
Serge?
I feel like yeah, who did he went he so he got into a scrap with Robin Lopez one time.
Uh-huh.
And then who else am I thinking? Who else did he Oh, Marquise Chris.
Yeah.
He randomly threw him up against the stanchion like a rag doll. Like, bro, this kid.
It's the
this
highlight
guy's-
of his. It's the highlight of Marquise Chris's career and the
Yeah.
Sacramento Kings for drafting him. He was
Like,
picked
dude,
by the
this
Sacramento
guy's-
Kings 5th, right?
Yeah, he's trying to stay in the league, dude. This guy does not want heat from you.
Yeah,
That was
Leanne
funny.
says love Surge. Okay, let's close this out a fun thing because we got a little bit contentious in the middle, got a little bit heated with one of the guests again.
Oh, did Marco call back? Is that
No,
what's going on?
Marco didn't call back. It was some guy telling me that according to Knicks Fans TV that the Knicks probably wouldn't give up Quentin Grimes for OG Anunoby, and I kind of lost my mind on him there.
What?
Anyways, yeah,
Dude,
it does-
that dude deserves to be yelled at. Are you nuts? Come on, bro.
you
Are
had
you
Ita-
watching?
you
You-
you
you
had
watched
you
the
had
game?
you had Italian parents too. I can tell. Like you just you
Oh,
have this
yeah, bro.
idea of like, yeah, if you say something stupid, you kind of deserve to be yelled at. I don't actually agree with that, like that you deserve to be yelled at, but I kind of was just like, I'm not having this. Anyways, okay, let's
hit the nail
end
on
this
the
on
head.
something fun. We're gonna
Sure.
play Raptors Mortal Kombat. we're gonna do a round. So I'm gonna put it up on the screen. We're at 3 minutes and 22 seconds. Let's hope that Raptors Mortal Kombat takes no more than 5 to 6 minutes.
Okay.
You pick the first matchup on the team. We're gonna do like a tournament to see who is the best fighter on the team. So we're gonna say in an actual brawl, like in an actual fight, who would win? Like fists up, actual fight, who would win on the Raptors? And I'm gonna put up my first opponent. I'm gonna put my first guy up. Fred VanVleet. You pick his opponent.
Well, I guess are we doing sort of welterweight, lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight kind of divisions
You
here?
can start out there. You can start Fred, but eventually he's gonna have to fight the biggest guy. So you want to start him
Okay.
on a Malachi? You can,
Sure.
but
Sure. There is your obvious guy, the only guy
Okay.
like shorter than 6'2" or whatever.
okay. Fred versus Malachi. Let me know, chat. I'm gonna try to be organized about this. So let's
Fred
be super scientific about this. Fred versus Malachi. Who wins in a fight?
Say Fred is like Johnny Chang or
Oh no.
Sonya.
Yeah, there goes. As I'm talking about Mortal Kombat and violence, my lamp just was about to fall there. Okay. I need a piece of paper so that I can record these responses. Okay, it's overwhelmingly for Fred, so Fred moves on. Okay. Next up, Gary versus someone. So I'm picking one. I'm picking opponent. You pick.
Okay. I guess like-sized in weight, we'll say Delano Banton.
Okay. Gary versus Banton. In a fight, who wins? Rexdale's finest or
I'm going Delano.
the drip king himself?
Gary's too pretty. He's
Okay.
too stylish. He's got a.
We got Gary, Delano, Gary. That's interesting. People are Banton,
Yeah.
Banton, Reach, and Hood. Rexdale, stand up. Delano. Okay, seems like Banton has got it. Okay, Banton moving on.
Yeah, the reach. Oh, that's what he's saying. That reach. He's got the wingspan.
Simon Phoenix said Banton is cut. What?
Oh, okay.
No.
Is he shredded?
No. Are you telling me like he just got cut like right now?
No,
Please
no,
don't.
no. He's saying he's shredded. He's saying Banton is cut. He's got a 6-pack and all that.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Cut has many meanings. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Banton moving on. Sorry, you gave me like a little bit of a heart attack there. Although, I mean, like
Yeah.
to be honest, I probably would have had I had a worse reaction to finding out that Justin Champagny was waived.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. All right.
I'm sure you didn't like that.
Shredded. Got it. Perfect. Cut. Shredded. Thanks for that. Okay, next up, Kem. Kem versus somebody.
Cam might be able to throw them things. Let me see. Who's a
Kem
good
versus. I
well,
mean, it's
put
gonna
him
have to-
up against against Precious.
Precious. Okay. Kem versus Precious. Precious Achua. Oh my gosh. Okay. Kem versus Precious. Okay, who wins? In a fight. A real fight. Like they're pissed off at each other. This is not like soft boxing. This is like a street fight. You messed around with somebody. Okay. We got Kem, Precious.
Precious from Nigeria.
Kem versus Precious. Okay. We got Kem, Precious, Snail Kem would die. Kem. My God. This is getting okay. Precious is starting to Summer Low says Kem ain't losing to some guy named Precious. That's rude. Okay, Kem is older, manpower.
Yeah.
Probably the best two fighters on the team. Really? I don't think that's true, but okay. Precious might be that guy. Kem is older. Okay, man. Y'all just gonna make me count. Okay, cool. Okay. Voting stops now. We're gonna have to count these. You want to count the Kem votes, and I'll count the Precious votes.
Sure. I got.
Just count in your head.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh shit! I can't scroll for some reason.
3, 4, 5,
oh, there we go.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
I think Precious got
13, 14, 15, 16. We got 16 votes for Precious. How many did you get for Kem? Don't tell me 16. I'm gonna cry.
No, like 8 or 9.
Okay, cool. So Precious is moving on.
Yeah. You know what? Come to think, we should have put OG against Precious.
No.
Ripped big bodies right there.
We're not doing that. Okay, so Kem is out.
Yeah.
Malachi's out. Gary's out. Okay. Moving on. We got to speed this up. All right. Moving on next. We got my boy, Jeff Doughton. Against.
Forgot about him.
Ron Harper Jr. Oh boy. It's the battle of the two ways.
Harper's a big boy.
Yes, he is.
I think that's a
but I feel like
Jeff Doughton.
but I feel like Jeff's like quicker. So I was like, it's really you going for girth or size? We got Harper. Okay. Jeff, Harper. So Ron. Oh man, y'all. See, you guys, not even giving Jeff Doughton a chance. All right, Ron Harper. Okay.
Yeah. That's all Ron.
Okay. So Ron gets through. Okay. We're eight.
Let's get to the heavyweights.
Okay. First up. Don't worry. We're gonna get to that one. We're gonna go Otto versus OG.
OG all day, every day.
Really? Okay.
I mean, he's got the girth. Otto definitely has the probably has better dexterity. He's probably got more coordination.
Wow,
Look,
OG winning by a landslide. That's funny. Yo, you guys know how big boxing and balance are? Like, it's a really big thing in boxing.
It's true.
Like, I feel like, I'll be honest, if I had to put my own vote, it would probably go to Otto, but I guess OG's going to win this one because people have ideas about what big dudes. I mean, yeah, I feel like OG could probably box for real. Like, he's strong, but Otto's really strong too.
Mike Tyson kicked the shit out of some guys that are way bigger than him. This is for sure.
Saving says, if you can get OG angry, you are fucked. I don't think I've ever seen OG angry, but okay. But those are the ones you have to watch out for, right? Those are the people. Okay, next up. Who are we going with? we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave. You know who? Okay, let's go. Thad versus not him. So Thad versus.
Who haven't we? Oh, like Boucher. We haven't
Okay,
said
Thad.
him
Thad
yet.
and Boucher. The friends are gonna fight. Thad versus Boucher. We going for length. We going for age. The two men. The two old guys. Okay, the two older guys. Probably should have put Thad versus Kem, to be honest. But Thad versus Boucher. Thad. Thad. Okay.
Boucher's had some rough life experience. I don't know. Can't count that out.
Jeez.
Can't discount that.
Simon Phoenix is the only person saying Boucher, and you know what? Like, I feel like Boucher might be scary good. Like, he might be strangely good. Like, people have these perceptions because the guy's a skinny guy that he can't
Right.
fight, but I don't find that to be the case. But it seems like Thad's gonna win by a landslide because people think he's the OG. So we're gonna go Thad. All right. Okay, we have only 4 players remaining. Let's get to Scotty versus somebody. Scotty versus who?
It's got to be Pascal, obviously.
No, not yet.
No.
We must save that for the next round.
Who else? Who else we got?
Well, that can't be it. Those aren't the only
Who's
2
left?
players remaining, right?
Well, there's 15 guys in. It's 15 guys on the roster.
There's 16
no,
guys on the roster.
Koloko.
Okay, so Scotty versus. Okay, we're gonna put Pascal versus Scotty versus Juancho. There we go. Scotty versus Bo
Okay.
Cruz, and then it's gonna be the battle of the Cameroonians. Okay, Scotty versus Juancho.
That's not even.
Yeah.
Juancho's upbringing probably wasn't how it was depicted in the movie.
Yeah, Scotty by a mile. Yep, I agree. Okay, Scotty.
Scotty would get in his head. Bro, did you see him with Aiden? Come on, man. That was fucking. That was the best.
Is not him. Yeah, I remember. Okay,
You is
that
not
was
him
that was
was
Quentin
again.
Grimes, but
Yeah,
still,
I
like he
remember.
basically you is not him too. Also, fun
Exactly.
fact. So like that thing that Scotty did, like that look. Okay, I shouldn't say it. No, it's cool. I'm not gonna say it, but it's. Damn it! Sometimes I get like an idea. I'm like, oh, I could say it, but then I realize I can't say it. But yeah, it's let's just say he gets it from somewhere. Scotty. Okay, and next up, the Battle of the
You
Cameroon.
hit the nail on the head. That was pure Mamba shit right there. He's already the leader on the team from that alone.
No, actually, it was Mamba shit, but it was actually Mama shit.
What does that mean?
I'll tell you later. Okay. Scott. Okay. Next up, the Battle of the Cameroonians. We say Pascal versus Koloko. Let me guess where everyone's going with this one. Skinny guy loses again. All right. Let us know.
Well, you say Pascal's pretty skinny himself, but
Oh, couple for Koloko here.
No, we got Koloko.
3 for Koloko.
Koloko's got that reach. He's got that 7'4".
We're actually gonna have to
7'5"
count this
wingspan.
one. We're gonna have to count this one. Okay. Okay.
I'll
You
do
you
Pascal,
you
bro.
you count Koloko. You want to count Pascal's?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. I'll count Koloko. 1, 2.
I got 6 Pascal.
I got 10 Kolokos.
Yeah.
Pascal's out.
Yeah, dude.
Yo, that's crazy. That messes up everything. Okay.
You just wanted the Scotty Pascal.
I didn't want
Street
Scotty to
fight.
knock out. Oh man, now that sucks. Okay. All right. Moving on to round 2. Fred versus Banton. Apparently.
I mean,
After beating out guards, now we got Freddie VanVleet, Rockford. We got Rockford versus Rexdale up in here. That's fun.
right.
Okay.
Chicago suburb or Toronto suburb? What?
Oh my God.
Tougher.
Banton winning this. Yo, why does everyone think Delano Banton can fight? Is Rexdale's reputation that tainted? That everyone thinks like everyone from Rexdale can fight? Delano's a lover, not a fighter. Come on, guys.
I mean, before it was legal, that's where I used to go to get my weed, for sure.
Where do you
Van
live?
Van.
You
Well,
live in the West End?
No, I live downtown now.
So
But when I was in
plenty
my
of
formative
weed
years,
downtown, man. Come on.
no,
You
no,
don't need to
no.
go all the way
I
to
live downtown.
Rexdale.
I live downtown now. When I was younger, I lived up in Vaughan. So, but I
Okay.
hung out in the West End.
All right. Banton gets through. Next up, Precious versus Ron Harper Jr.
Oh, it's not even fair. Sorry, Ronnie.
Okay. Next up, Precious versus Ron.
Yeah, it's all Precious. We got Precious all day.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right, Ron Harper Jr., we hardly knew you, but you made it to the second round of something. All right. Next up, we got, oh, wow. We got the teacher and the student. We got OG versus his OG, Thad Young.
Oh, shit.
Yep. I mean, Thad's known him. Thad's been knowing him since he was in grade 7, man. It's long-term ties. All right, OG versus Thad, huh?
You think Thad would sun him?
I don't know. I guess we're gonna wait for the chat to like figure it out. Moses Scott says draw.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, Thad, OG. Okay, teacher Mike taking a moment to body shame Ron Harper Jr. for a second there. Yo, if he wasn't like a world class athlete, I would call like bullshit on that. But you can make fun of a guy who's like 7-8% body fat for being tubby, I guess.
I know.
If he's fat, what the hell am I, bro? Like OG, Thad, OG too strong. Okay, guys, don't do this. Damn it, I screwed up. You know what I wanted to do? I wanted to have the ability to intro this. Hold on. Where's the
Mortal Kombat?
No, I'm not trying to get a copyright strike. No, I was gonna play a video of Scotty and freaking Thad going back and forth. Damn it. To introduce. Okay, cool. Next and then final second round is Scotty versus Coloco.
That's too easy.
I agree it's too easy, but with the way some of these have been going, I don't know. So Scott versus Christian.
Coloco is coming in here. Oh, okay. No, Scotty. We got 6-3, 7-3, 8-3, 9-3.
All right.
Scotty with the fatality.
No.
I like that, Moses Scott.
Okay. This is okay. Create vote feature in this chat. How do I do that? I don't actually know how to do that.
That's gonna take too long.
Okay, we're 3 away. So next up, Banton versus OG. No, sorry, no. Let's go Banton versus Scotty because they came in together. They're rookies together. Banton versus Scotty. Okay. The battle of the 2021 rookies. Rexdale versus West Palm Beach, Florida, baby. Scotty wins in a landslide. Okay, so Scotty is going to the finals. Surprise, surprise, on the channel that has often been accused of being the house of worship of Scotty Barnes. Scotty going to the finals. Big body Barnes.
OG?
Yeah, I don't know, because the next one is going to be really hard. Precious versus OG.
Oof. That's the Spider-Man meme right there.
I don't know, man. You
This
got girth on one side, you got like lower body strength, you got definite flexibility and quickness and agility on the other end.
Right. I think Precious might take this one.
Oh boy. Precious.
8-4,
Yikes.
8-5, 9-5, 10-5. Yeah, Precious took it.
Poor
A
OG.
big sneeze.
Losing his spot in the starting lineup to Precious Achua, now losing to him in Mortal Kombat. This is just a never-ending lull.
Ouch.
Okay. And we have arrived at the finals. Mortal Kombat. Okay. Precious versus Scotty, where we all knew it would eventually end up.
Yep.
Precious versus Scotty. Let's count it. Okay.
Oh man, Precious taking this, bro. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-1, 5-2, 6-2, 6-3, 7-3, 8-3, 9-3, 10-3, 11-3. Bro, Precious taking this. 11-4, 11-5 so far.
Okay.
12. Precious wins.
Really?
You got that big body.
Barnes is bigger, man. All right. Cool. Precious Achua announced King of Mortal Kombat.
Precious looks like he would have the faster fist, like fist speed. You know?
Yeah. Interesting. It is interesting to think about, like, all right, Precious Achua is King of Mortal Kombat. Well, that was certainly an exercise worth 25 minutes of life at 2 a.m. It was fun. Anyway, thanks for indulging. Hopefully that was fun. I don't know. I think it's... I don't know what what did that prove? Did that prove anything? No. Did that prove, like, who was a better three-point shooter, a better ball handler? No. It was just something that I had some random brain fart at 2 a.m. and I was like, that's a cool idea. Let's do that. Maybe I just wanted to end this chat on like a light, fun note. It hasn't been a great day for Raptor fans or a great week in a lot of ways. But I think what I can say to Raptor fans as a olive branch of hope is it's gonna get better because it can't get worse. Like,
I think so, man. I think I mean, even if they can, like, I can see Masai being a little bit like, if a deal presents itself that he doesn't like, he's not going to be pressured into anything. That said, it's a seller's market. I think something's going to come around, right? I'm hoping it's the right piece. I'm hoping that it's Pascal that gets dealt
and not OG.
And not OG.
Sahib Singh saying OG will be traded for sure. I don't know. Someone also said it's definitely not a good day for Siakam. That's true. I mean, he gets stumped from the All-Star team. That sucks. His team is 7 games under 500. Granted, by tomorrow they'll be 6 games under 500 because there's no way in hell you lose to the Rockets. I swear to God, if they lose to the Rockets, Siakam is getting traded at halftime tomorrow. Okay, like,
right?
Like, everyone's getting traded. You lose to the Rockets right now.
They are at home.
But yeah,
they can be streaky shooters. Eric Gordon can score. It's not impossible.
So you're saying stack like $10 on the Rockets? Betting advice from Vince. Don't do it. Don't do it unless you want to throw away $10. I don't think they're gonna win, but I think the Raptors will win tomorrow. But I will say that to add insult to injury to Pascal's not so great day, he also gets bounced in the first round of Mortal Kombat to a rookie named Christian Coloco from his same city. Douala, Cameroon. He's here to take over. All right. Good chat. I liked it. I hope this was fun, engaging, and whatever. Make sure to hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you're listening to this later, be sure to hit like, leave a comment when we hang up. And thanks a lot, Vince.
Yeah, man.
Kind of co-hosted the ending 2 nights in a row with me. Thanks a lot for that.
I like it, man. I like it.
Yeah. Jonathan, thanks a lot for staying up, man. I know you said initially you like to go to bed early. I'm so sorry to have kept you up till 2 a.m. Yeah. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a good one. Good night.
Yeah, you too, man.